SummerSlam 2021 and NXT Takeover 36 is in the books. What's going on, guys? A very tired and exhausted Good Mic Work back at you to talk NXT Takeover and to talk my SummerSlam experience. I was there, which is why there was not a review up last night, and I had to haul ass back into San Diego today so I could be home to watch Takeover tonight, make notes on that, and come up and do a podcast. So this is going to kind of be a double episode. We're going to talk about what was a pretty good Takeover tonight, kind of a bittersweet day. It might be the last of, what we've come to expect from takeovers, even though the last few have been a little different because of the pandemic and stuff and being confined to the CWC and all of that. But this really might have been an end of an era tonight. We're going to have there's a Nick Khan interview with Ariel Helwani we're going to talk about, where he kind of confirmed the complete revamping of NXT, and they're going in a different direction. So the wonderful, amazing wrestling we've gotten for the last decade is over, and they're going to be going down a different road. So, tonight might kind of be the end of it, but of course, as is the usual with takeovers, they supplied us with a phenomenal amount of wrestling tonight, really good matches, and a couple that were super top-notch. Early match of the year candidate, obviously, with Walter and Dragunov. Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole tore the house down, and Joe and Cross had a surprisingly better match than I thought they would have. I kind of felt bad for both of them that they had to follow a couple of really just awesome matches. But for what it was, and, the two styles of the two guys, I think the match was all right, and we got a muscle buster finish, which was pretty cool. So, we'll talk about the matches here and everything that went down on TakeOver, and then we will transition into my SummerSlam experience. We'll run down the card. I'll tell you what I thought of each match, at least what I saw. I have not taken a look at all of any clips whatsoever for SummerSlam. I only saw what I saw. So I don't know how any of the stuff came off on television. I could gather from the audience and the crowd, some of the decisions were probably equally as infuriating at home as they were in the arena. There were plenty of people who were half wanting to cheer for Becky and half like, what the fuck are they doing? And the Goldberg match was getting a lot of eye rolls from a lot of fans in the audience, and there was just a couple things on the show that was typical WWE. And from what I saw scrolling through Twitter when I was sitting in my seat, people weren't being too kind to the show. A lot of people were giving it, pretty a negative reaction from home, especially 24 hours after the big return of CM Punk. Thank you to everyone who joined us Friday nights for the AEW Rampage watch-along. That was a lot of fun. As soon as that stream was over, I hopped in the car and we drove all night to get to Vegas and arrived early Saturday morning. So it was a very long couple of days for me, and I was exhausted. But after a night like that, in AEW, turning around, you would think SummerSlam would give us a really awesome show, and they kind of didn't care so much about the show itself, just wanted a couple of those big moments and big surprises with Becky Lynch and with Brock Lesnar. I was kind of thinking we might go in the Money in the Bank cash-in direction, but instead we got Brock coming out of the end that honestly I didn't see coming. I was trying to do a good job of getting, a video of all, the returns and all the entrances and stuff like that, and we were just starting to think about leaving because I'm like, Big E might come out and cash in or something, and kind of want to leave, but, kind of watching at the same time. And then Brock's music hits. He comes out. Pretty awesome moment there. And that's something that I've been waiting for a long time. I've been talking about it forever on this podcast, that I'm ready for Brock to come back and have a head-to-head, face-to-face with Roman Reigns, because that's just a really interesting match. And don't give me any of that, we've seen that before. No, we have not. We have not seen the Tribal Chief versus the Beast Incarnate ever. And this is a completely different type of match than the last time these two guys have had run-ins with each other. Plus, you got Paul Heyman sitting in the middle, where I was always wondering where his alliance would be. And his alliance appears to be with Roman. He kind of looked shocked when Brock came out, and he even left with Roman Reigns as Brock stood in the ring. I wasn't sure if Brock getting his hands on John Cena made the pay-per-view or not, or if that was just for us. Apparently it was just for us, but Brock got in there and threw a couple of Germans, and I think F5'd John Cena just for extra credit, for no reason at all, which I thought was a nice little touch for us fans at the end. And all in all, pretty cool moment there, and it's a match that I'm really ready to see. And I wonder if Brock might have been brought back early once WWE figured out, okay, CM Punk's definitely going to appear on that Friday show. Let's get Brock back to counterbalance that. That's possible. I don't think Becky coming back was to balance out CM Punk. That was due to the Sasha Banks stuff, and Becky's ready to come back. Brock, however, they might have held him off a little longer had Punk not shown up. But this is all speculation. I have not been looking at any wrestling news. I am totally out of the loop when it comes to that stuff. I only had a couple of hours to kind of glance at a few things today, which we'll get into. But as we go into SummerSlam here in just a little bit, I'll let you know what I thought of the show, a couple of things that happened, including a major issue at the show that I'm yet to read any information on. But about 3 matches in, I think it was after, I want to say it was after Priest and Sheamus, I went up to get a beer, and their system went down, or they were rebooting the system. Oh, it'll just be a minute. It's coming back up. It never came back up. So went back to our seats, went back up and checked after the next match. Still nothing. People are kind of standing there waiting, hoping the system comes back up so they can get a beer. It becomes apparent that it's not going to come back up. So we're talking to other people in the stands, like, no, nothing yet. As soon as we get word that the system's back up, I want to go get a nice cold beer. And it never happened. So finally, after I think 2 matches later, Elizabeth and I run up there and we kind of look around, and they're basically giving away food at the concession stands because they can't take any payments. It's a cash-only stadium. So there's no cash. You can only pay digitally or electronically. So they're basically, you go up there, they'll give you anything you want for food. We just got a couple of sodas, I think. But they will give you sodas, water, anything non-alcoholic, and any food that you wanted. They were giving it away, bleeding money. The amount of money that they can make off, a $14 fucking hot dog, selling that to thousands of people. But not only that, they can't give away alcohol. So unfortunately, you couldn't buy any, which kind of sucked. I wasn't looking to get my drink on or, drink heavily at the show or anything, but I wanted a couple beers and I was only able to have one. So it was kind of a bummer that happened. But, what I couldn't stop thinking about is how much money was lost. Hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially, and how many beers do you think they sell a minute? I think they do $1,000 in beer sales per minute at that place, something like that. There's 51,000 people there, and they were giving away food, and it was fucking mess. So another thing I did not attempt to look at was WWE's merchandise stands. I'm assuming WWE probably has internal payment processing going on there. I think the stadium employees run the merch stand, but I'd want to say WWE uses their own system, but who knows? They might not. That might be all on the stadium too. So if they didn't have a backup for that, I hope the merch sales didn't take a hit from that. So I don't know. It was a fucking mess. There was a few unhappy people about that, but I just can't think about what a huge botch that was by Allegiant Stadium. It's not a very old building yet, and that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money lost. So kind of sucked. But anywho, we'll get into all of that later on. I'm going to say hi to everybody here in the chat, knock out those super chats first. Then I will just touch on a couple of wrestling news tidbits regarding AEW Rampage, a little bit about that Nick Khan interview, and I think that's about all I've really got jotted down for the news. We'll catch up on that later this week. Programming note for you, I am going to Raw tomorrow. Tomorrow is in San Diego. Tomorrow night's Raw is in San Diego, so months ago we got pretty damn good seats for it. Based on the quality of the product we've seen lately on Monday Night Raw, I'm not really looking forward to this, but it's here in my hometown. It's only a 30-minute drive, so we're going to go down and go to Raw tomorrow. So I think I could probably be home around an hour after the show is over. It's going to be a bitch getting out of there, potentially traffic, but it's not going to be a huge sold-out house or anything. So, provided I can just get out of the arena and get onto the freeway, just a few minutes after I exit the door, I should be home about an hour after the show goes off the air. So I think I'll still try to come up here and do a Raw review tomorrow. I'm going to reserve the right to not do one. I'll let you guys know on social media if I don't or whatever, but it just means I'm coming up an hour or so later, which most YouTubers are still up streaming at that point, still talking about Raw. So I might just be a little bit late to the party, but it might be a cool stream to do to give you guys my live personal experience of the show and my account of what happened, to see if there was any discrepancies in what you saw on TV and get an overall idea of the show. If we're going to see Goldberg tomorrow or his kid or whatever, that fucking match was awful. I don't know. But anyway, just keep that in mind. I'm going to try to prep up everything tonight, get a link ready to rock and roll for tomorrow. And we'll come up and do a live stream after I get home from the Raw. And then I got to get my ass back to work and actually make some money so I can pay these here bills. And so you might not hear from me again probably until Thursday. That's the plan. But anywho, Good to see everybody in here hanging out. Thank you for all of the interaction on Twitter and on social media yesterday. It was a great time. If you're not following on me on Twitter, please do so at Good Mic Work. I've got a bunch of pictures and videos from the show, a lot of entrances, a lot of cool moments. And my seats were fantastic, although it wasn't good visually because I couldn't even see the entrance. I was over top of the entrance, and it kind of had like that Royal Rumble curved-like entrance, so I was up there, and they had the whole entire arena set up a lot like a stage with half of it blocked off where the hard camera was, basically like a theater almost, where the ring is the stage and everybody's on one side. So it kind of made it visually a little bit hard to kind of grasp how it looked on TV, but it was still really cool seats. I had great view of everything, and it was a fucking blast. And tomorrow's seats apparently is going to be pretty good too. But hello to Armin, Stone Cold, Dark Angel, Trey Williams is in the house. Chris Ludecki, what's up, dude? Thanks for the $5. If Cole shows up on Dynamite, this is the closest thing we'll see to a Luger-type debut where he has one promotion one day and another next. I know, and I'm sure that factored in to whatever was discussed in that meeting with Vince McMahon, because they know that, hell, this is one very, very rare situation where he can just show up. 90-day, no compete my ass, he can just go, or 30-day or whatever it is. He can just show up there. So that might have given them all the more reason to sweeten the deal a little bit with him and try to do whatever they can to get him to stick around. And they didn't really give away a whole lot here. The match with Kyle O'Reilly went down pretty much just as predicted, and Cole was going to take a loss regardless of what his plans were. If he's going over up to the main roster, you got to put over Kyle, who's going to be sticking around in NXT. And if you're going to AEW, of course, you got a job on the way out. Also putting over your friend who's going to stick around in NXT. So we still don't know. All Cole has really said is that his Twitch channel isn't going anywhere, but that doesn't mean anything either, because he's got Vince McMahon by the balls. And he goes, look, if you're willing to lose me over a Twitch channel, Vince, then goodbye. I'm going to AEW. You're either letting me do this or I'm not staying here, period. So Vince might have caved on that. So especially when you hear reports of the meeting went very well and shit. So if it didn't go well, if Vince wasn't willing to agree to that, then you would hear reports that the meeting didn't go well. So we really don't totally know, but I think at this point can kind of go either way. I feel like he might be sticking around and heading up to Raw or SmackDown or something. It feels like it could really go that way. But as a wrestling fan, I'd kind of prefer him to get the fuck out of there, to be honest. But we'll see. I mean, he's really had a good run there and really ran his course as champion with his faction, feud with Kyle. Yeah, you can do a whole lot of new things on the main roster, but you can do a whole lot more new things over in AEW. So I'd rather just him do that. But we'll see. Whatever Cole decides, we got his back on this channel. Daryl is here. Ben is here. Deshaun Robinson, How Weezy, and Barry MK. What's up, guys? Happy to have the Monkey Wrenches in the house. FRGN is here. Sunny Man, Reese Jones, Charlie, Michael, Martin, Shanus, Dre L is back. Good to see you. Chris, Jet the Hawk, Transferring Heat, Red Raven is here. We've got Mike Witt, Mike Laughlin. We've got Super Fluffy Toaster. Thank you for the 5 super chat as well. Hey, good mic work. Was the show better in person? I went to Mania 29 and it sucked watching it back, but being there live was great. I'm going to be talking about that later. I know that the show was not getting rave reviews, but you guys know, many of you have been to shows. You're just there for the good time, and even though if I'm overanalyzing this at home, watching it on my computer or on my couch or something like that about the booking decisions or who's going over or why did they do this or why did they do that, those things don't tend to bother you as much. When you're in a festive environment, the crowd is fun. I was meeting people in the stands. For a little while anyway, I was having some drinks and just kind of enjoying the moment, and, the loudness and all of that was kind of fun. So, I was there when Becky pinned Bianca, people popped for that. But I think after they thought about it for a minute, it kind of set in like, that didn't make any fucking sense. They didn't do Bianca or Becky any favors there. Becky's supposed to be, one of their biggest stars, one of their biggest draws that they have in modern times, and she's going to go out there and squash a beloved babyface. Like WWE did her wrong too. There's no reason to blame Becky here. There's only a reason to blame WWE. There are going to be some fans now that resent Becky, and why would you want to do that? That's the thing that doesn't make any sense to me. You can argue, oh, Bianca's going to be fine. Nobody's questioning if she's going to be fine. It's not about that. She's not buried, nothing like that. I just think it's a stupid fucking thing to do, to put her over her so strongly and have her have like a match of the year candidate with Sasha Banks at WrestleMania, winning the title in such grand fashion, and she's a babyface no less, to drop it like that yeah, it was shocking. She tried to show respect, and Becky, cheap shotted her or hit her with the rock bottom or whatever and pinned her. But still, it's like it would make a little bit more sense, I suppose, if Bianca was a heel and she's an asshole, but Bianca's pretty beloved like Becky, and Becky is, she's not. She can be a badass, nasty person too, but there was really no reason to do it here. So the whole thing was just kind of odd. I wouldn't have beaten Bianca like that. I would have had Bianca, and I'm fine with Becky winning. Just give her a little bit of a match here. So they'll do a rematch. They're going to run it back 100% because Bianca was not prepared for this. Just like Honky Tonk Man wasn't prepared in 1988 when he was supposed to wrestle Beefcake and the Warrior came out. Same deal here. Only difference is Bianca is not a shithead little fucking dirtbag heel. She's great. So, and she's very strong, and arguably she probably beat Becky's ass in a fight. So I just don't think that was very smart. However, when you're there and you're in the moment, it's just fun. It's just all about the fun atmosphere. But yeah, watching it at home is a much different experience than watching it live. And I know that too, because I used to go to a ton of pay-per-views and Raws back in the day, and there were some that weren't that great, but I was in the arena and it was fun. Unforgiven 99, I think, goes down as a pretty shitty pay-per-view, but I had a great time that night. So, it just depends. Anywho, oh gosh, who else is here? Cruise Control. I like how you spelled that. Timothy Hawkins is in the house. Victor's here. Steven, Zane G, Atomic Cody. I'm probably missing a bunch. I'm sorry, but we got to get into this. Sam Thompson, JL, Mega Awesome. All right, I better stop or I'll be talking all day. Do me a favor, tap that thumbs up button for me if you don't mind, and try to get those likes up since we got a few topics to get into. But I don't want to take forever here because I am very tired, and I got very little sleep this morning because when we got back from the show, because our hotel was right across the street from the show. We had a couple drinks, did a little bit of gambling on the slot machines, and had some food, and then only probably got 5 hours maybe of sleep, before hopping in the car and driving 5 hours home. So I'm a little groggy, and my old ass needs a nap and a snack. So that's going to be in my future once we're done with the show here. But I have not seen any arguing or butting about any ratings for AEW, so I'm assuming those Rampage numbers are not out yet. But early indicators are that it drew well over 1 million, as well it should, and I'm interested to see when that final number does come out. But that's good news for AEW and CM Punk. Speaking of CM Punk, congratulations to him. He shattered my Pro Wrestling Tees record for most shirts sold in a 24-hour span and crashed the fucking website after AEW went off the air and sold 1 million, God knows how many of those t-shirts. So congrats to him for breaking my record. No hard feelings, bro. And a shout out to whatever fan I saw walk right past me last night with one of those shirts on that said I was there. So this guy was in Chicago. I assume you can't get that shirt unless you were there on Friday at Rampage, right? The one that he was wearing that said I was there. Dude walked right past me. I'm like, that dude fucking travels, to get from Chicago to Vegas just like that. Holy shit. So that was kind of cool. And congrats to CM Punk for doing all of that. And he's going to be on AEW Dynamite on Wednesday, and that's going to be great. So my plan as of right now is probably come up Thursday afternoon, and we'll talk Dynamite. We'll talk whatever CM Punk does. Obviously, it's going to be something with Darby Allin, and he's in there full-blown, ready to rock and roll, so that's kind of cool. Another thing, news-wise, I've not had a chance to really look at today was an interview by Nick Khan on Ariel Helwani's show. It was a sit-down interview, and this is the first time we've really seen this guy or heard him speak at length, I guess, aside from the earnings calls that they do, where he does talk a little bit. But this guy is somebody we've heard a lot about, and he is a big-time player behind the scenes in terms of his executive role and the types of responsibilities that he has. And, he did come off apparently to many as, as a pretty decent sounding dude. A lot of people said the interview was really good. I will listen to it in its entirety when I have chance. I only saw a couple of clips. And one of those clips was him discussing Triple H and Stephanie and Bruce and Vince and himself all collectively deciding on these releases, talked the tryout that they held in Vegas, and discussed a lot of things like talent going to AEW. And, there's a couple things I think that he said that came off a little off or a little bad, but, for the most part, people were cool with the interview. I was assuming I wasn't going to like it just because this guy has gotten so much heel heat. I even put that on Twitter today. I'm like, I haven't seen this Khan interview yet, but I'm probably going to hate it, right. And Sean Ross Sapp chimed back and he said, it's not that bad. And I'm like, well, my dad always told me never assume anything. So I'll look at it, but I'm certain that I'm not going to like everything he said in there. And a lot of what WWE is doing from a business model perspective is changing a lot, namely NXT and stuff. So there are going to be people behind the scenes that are going to take the heat for that. And, I'm sure that not only is he very, very good at his job, but he's also very, very good at spinning things the way WWE wants them spun. And they're probably looking for people that can handle these type of interviews and know the right shit to say, and they completely be programmed by Vince's line of thinking. So, he's there to make some difficult decisions and stuff, and his name is probably going to be coming up a lot in the future. But, from what I understand, the interview was pretty decent. But I want to read you a tweet from John Alba. Meant to have it pulled up. Oh, there it is. That I want to listen to this portion of it and get my take. But here's what he says earlier today. Quote, listening to the Nick Khan interview, it is extremely clear as to what the future of WWE will look like from a talent standpoint. They want people who don't have much wrestling experience prior and to be able to mold them into WWE style. Imminent with WWE's NXT rebrand. So basically, they want to go back to the homegrown talent. They no longer want to bring in, for the most part anyway, indie wrestlers. They want to try to stay away from that, and bringing in guys from other promotions. And I think that's fucking horrible. Because what do you think all these people in the indies are doing right now? What do you think they're trying to do? They're trying to make it big. They're trying to get experience and learn as much as they can. It used to be the more traveled you were and the more experienced you were, the more you brought to the table. Now it's like they want to get away from that, which means no more Kevin Owenses and Sami Zayns and Nakamura's and Adam Cole's and Daniel Bryan's and CM Punk's. Where the fuck do you think all these guys came from? How many huge, crazy, over-the-top WWE homegrown stars have they really made? Not a ton. So this is a very strange philosophy, and I don't think you should ever limit yourself to where to look for talent or where to look for talent. To me, that means you're going to be missing out, which I guess is good for AEW because holy shit, is this a far cry from where they were a year ago with the hoarding talent, or over a year ago, 2 years ago, I guess, where they're just going up signing people just to sign them. So now there's going to be a lot better pickings out there for an AEW, for an Impact, or anybody else to sign really, really good talent that WWE is too stupid to bring in, because now they have this dumbass rule that we're just going to bring in people that don't know what the fuck we're doing. They are going to turn the wrestling roster, the rest of their division, male and female, into the Divas division, is essentially what that kind of insinuates there. We're just going to look for people that are big and have a good look and just train them and hope for the best. That's how you get, the fucking Kelly Kellys and shit, yeah, she's great and everything. Everybody loves Kelly Kelly, but can she work? No. And, just hearing something like that is extremely deflating. So I'll listen to the whole interview and take what I can from it, but, not really a huge fan of where they're going internally. And it seems like they really are going in a different direction than AEW. And I just feel really bad with this, kind of new internal focus that all of this indie talent that's just been fucking killing themselves and is great and deserves to be signed, deserves to get a contract, are now going to be looked at less and less, because they don't want them, coming in and then leaving or whatever. They just want to grow their own people, and that's just they're trying to become the Amazon of wrestling or whatever, that they just have everything. Oh my God, now they're making their own. I'm surprised the wrestlers aren't going to be grown with Kirkland stamps on their neck or something. My God. So yeah, that's a little disheartening. Don't know what to make of that, but it is what it is. We'll see how this new revamp of NXT looks and what direction it goes in, and how different it really is once it launches, or if it's just going to appear 1 week with all the new shit. Now, apparently the deal with Full Sail is over. They haven't been back there since the pandemic anyway, but everyone was hoping they would kind of return there. But apparently that's done. They are not going to be back at Full Sail anymore. They are going to be limiting themselves just to the CWC. So I don't know if they're going to maybe revamp it or change it up a little bit more, or maybe find a different venue, another different venue close by. I don't know, but not liking what they're stripping NXT. They're just completely and just stripping it down and starting from scratch, which I don't know why you do something like that to something that's really not broken to begin with, but it is what it is, this fucking company. Anyway, we will get into TakeOver now. We'll run through these 5 matches that were all pretty good, and then I'll recap SummerSlam and let you guys know what I thought about a lot of this stuff. Let me knock out a couple supers that are flying in. 1 from Spaz Phoenix, 2 from Spaz Phoenix, 2 generous ones. What's up, dude? Thanks for the $20. Very awesome. Cool weekend. Punk calls out I'm burping. Punk calls out Darby. Becky saves the SmackDown title. Brock looks like a game villain. He does Edge Brood stuff. And my first indie show in 2 years, and saw Aiden Prince tear his head open for the mid-card title. Oh, God, you probably sent me a picture of that, didn't you? Great. All right, I'll check that out, Spaz. Yeah, what a weekend. I mean, there's no shortage of shit to talk about just in a couple of days span here, and it ain't even over yet because we got Raw tomorrow night, and we're going to have some complaining to do, I'm sure. But yeah, I'll check that Twitter when I get the chance, Spaz. I'm sure that's gnarly. And thanks for 2 more bucks after that. Cheers, chat, and Greg, and hope you had a great trip. I had a great trip, man. I'll talk more about that, too, in a minute. Oh, thank you for that, Deshaun. According to Sean, Adam has not signed new contract extension as of this morning. Good for him. Good for him knowing how to negotiate, too. You know, he might still just be thinking about it, you know, so he doesn't... That's smart of him to do that, because if he would have re-signed with them, they could have done whatever they wanted to him, you know, or whatever. Not that they would do anything, you know. Triple H and Sean would wish him nothing but the best heading to AEW if he chose to do that. However, you know, if he would have signed, then, you know, then they kind of got him. So he should say, I'm going to work out my extension to the end, and then we'll talk. Smart move. So I hope he goes. I just hope he goes. I just don't think someone like him is going to flourish on Raw and SmackDown, because I have no reason to think that he would, based on just the way they do shit. Look at SummerSlam last night. Look at who was off SummerSlam. Finn Balor was not there. Big E was on the fucking kickoff. We had a lot of pretty sizable stars not around for the show, which is odd that they couldn't find spots for those guys. But if Adam Cole goes, I just think there's going to be a whole lot of him not doing anything and him not having any sort of real, true creative direction, no matter how much they promise him. You know, I don't trust them to do shit at all. I wouldn't trust that word they said to me if I'm some piece of talent. Fucking smoke, they blow up your ass. Fuck off. You know, prove it. Show me, Adam Cole should be like, give me one reason why I should stay here based on how you guys treat all of us when we get up here. Fuck you. See you later. Anywho. Let's get into NXT TakeOver. Show opened up with the $1 Million Championship on the line. It's also Ted DiBiase is kind of on the line here too, because if Cameron Grimes loses, DiBiase must become LA Knight's butler, so he's got to do the butler shit. But if Grimes wins, he wins the $1 Million title. So Ted is firmly behind Cameron Grimes. He joins him at ringside for this match. Shout out to Cameron Grimes with my favorite ring gear of the night. He's got the sparkly vest and the sparkly pants with the dollar signs on it. It was like because Ted didn't wear sparkly trunks. They were just plain black, but his suit was always real sparkly. So Grimes' gear was in tribute to $1 Million Man, which I thought was really awesome. I was saying, too, I'm like, if Grimes was to lose, I think they should make DiBiase wear the Virgil gear, wear the Virgil outfit. Talk about what goes around comes around. Haven't I always said that? That would have been pretty funny if he had to dress like Virgil and clean up shit on the floor and stuff. And everything he made Virgil do for him would have been a pretty fun full circle moment if that would have went down. The match was pretty good, actually. These two guys put on a hot little match here. I wasn't sure. We've seen these guys work a lot. One of those times being in a ladder match, which was pretty damn good. So it's not that I thought this match was going to be bad or anything, but we've seen it a few times, and, you know, this feels like it's going to be the blow-off, and I didn't think it was going to be a barn burner, but it was pretty goddamn good. Cameron Grimes is super underrated, and he just... he cracks me. Between the two, I actually prefer Cameron Grimes. LA Knight looks like your more standard WWE guy with the voice and the body and the persona and the demeanor and the way he walks and looks and all that stuff. But, you know, Grimes is unique. Grimes is different, where, you know, that's not the case really with LA Knight. A lot of guys look like him. Very few can talk like him, though. But Grimes is just a whole completely different animal, and he's so goofy that he's good. And the match here was a pretty hard-fought little win for Grimes. Now, Grimes puts the $1 Million Dream on LA Knight at one point. Really cool spot here that I liked. Knight is attempting to fight out of the Dream. And he does the Bret Hart spot that Bret beat Piper with at WrestleMania 8, and then he beat Stone Cold with at Survivor Series 96, where he's locked in the sleeper. He pushes off the top turnbuckle and falls back into a pinning combination. And Knight attempts to do that counter here to Grimes, but Grimes rolls through it and keeps the sleeper on. Fucking great spot. Wish Austin or Piper would have tried that on Bret. Grimes holds on. Awesome stuff there. Eventually, I think Knight is able to duck and turnbuckle Grimes' face there on the second turnbuckle to get out of that. Later on, Knight brings in the championship belt, but Grimes kicks it away from him. And then I think Knight goes to the outside, and Ted DiBiase gets his hand on him. Big right hand from the $1 Million Man to LA Knight, and then Ted locks Knight in the $1 Million Dream, which is great. Tosses his ass back in the ring. Cave in by Cameron Grimes for the win, and Cameron Grimes is your new $1 Million champion. He celebrates with Ted DiBiase. Very cool. Those two guys had a fun little program there. I liked everything they did. It was fun stuff, and that's all I think they were trying to give us here. They're not trying to give us anything serious. It was just meant to be fun, give us a chuckle, and give us some pretty decent wrestling with an old school legend tossed in just for fun. All of it was just good. I just really, really liked it. So Grimes is your new $1 Million champion, and I believe after the match he was interviewed later on, and he said that there's going to be a championship celebration on Tuesday. So my question is, do you guys think that maybe the $1 Million title is going to end up going away? Maybe this was just a prop to be used for now? Because really, can you have this $1 Million belt on TV indefinitely? Like, is Grimes just going to be the $1 Million champion going forward? I feel like when DiBiase, when his presence leaves, the belt goes with it. So maybe Grimes turns on DiBiase, or maybe, I don't know, something like that happens, or Ted turns on him, says, I'm taking my belt back, you're not worthy of it, but hey, you're still a millionaire or whatever. Or, is Ted now the full-time manager of Cameron Grimes? I have no idea, but the fact that they're going to do a celebration makes me think if they're going to wind down the use of the $1 Million belt. I don't know if it's there for a little while or if it's there to stay. No idea what the plans are. They might not even know what the plans are, but big celebration for Grimes on Tuesday. After that, we get the women's title match. NXT women's title on the line. Raquel Gonzalez defending against Dakota Kai. Not a big surprise here. Dakota Kai's been getting those matches on main event, and they've been giving her a look for the main roster. And as soon as she had those main event matches, then she randomly turns on Raquel, so the writing was kind of on the wall there. They're going to be moving her up, split up this duo, allow Raquel to beat Dakota on her way to the main roster, and that's pretty much exactly the way it went. Dakota put up a good fight, but in the end, Raquel wound up beating her with her finish from the middle rope, hit her with that big slam thing she does, looked sick, and put Dakota down definitively. That's exactly the way I laid it out. She needs to put Dakota down hard, continue her run, because she's a big badass. So I think she needs to continue to be that, and Dakota shouldn't really be the person to beat her, especially when Dakota's going to go up. We haven't heard any rumors about Raquel going up. So, you feel like this has just got to be the deal. Dakota's pinned, Dakota's likely done, and she'll be heading to the main roster as well, and Raquel retains the title. Now, while Raquel Gonzalez is celebrating in the ring, Kaylee Ray's music hits, and she comes out to the stage and basically says that she's in NXT, and I guess that's going to be our next challenger for Raquel Gonzalez is going to be Kaylee Ray. So that's a nice little piece of talent, seemingly that they're going to be replacing the void that Dakota's going to leave when she goes to the main roster. So good to see Kaylee Ray in NXT. Going to be fun to see her there, and a series of matches with Gonzalez will probably be pretty good. This next one, my God, holy shit. If I was a wrestler, I don't think the doctor would clear me to wrestle just for watching this match. Holy shit. Ilya Dragunov taking on Walter. Walter defending the NXT title, champion for 800 and some odd days. NXT UK title, I should say. And just like we expected, these two guys just beat the shit out of each other. Dragunov almost instantly just busted, welted. He's already got that nasty gash on his forehead from the shot that he took on NXT last week, busted him wide open. So now he's got stitches on his face, and they are just beating the shit out of each other, not holding back at all. They had a lot to live up to because part one, last August, I think it was, a lot of people's favorite NXT match of all time. So they had a lot to live up to here. But Dragunov has proven everything to us. I've only seen just maybe 5 or 6 of his matches in the last year, but he is just a really, really tough beast. He's like, if you put like little Drake Maverick and Chris Benoit and melded them together or something like that. I mean, he is just an absolute maniac, and they just beat the hell out of each other. Walter was selling his ass off here. You could feel it. I predicted it too in the predictions video. I just felt like if you're not going to beat Walter here, when the fuck are you going to beat him? And plus, I would like to see maybe Walter go on to do something else. And if you're going to ever beat him clean or have him tap out, I think Dragunov is the guy that should do it based on who you currently kind of have around. And then Walter can maybe come into NXT and maybe be the person to take the belt off of Samoa Joe. Somebody's going to have to do it. So this could maybe be the beginning stages of that. But based on the reactions on social media, everybody was just singing the praises of this match. As good as O'Reilly and Cole was, this was easily the match of the night. Easily a match of the weekend in my mind. Nothing on SummerSlam or on Rampage or Dynamite topped this. This was pretty fucking good. And they even surprised me at the end with the tap out. I just didn't think Walter would be tapping, and he did. And he tapped out so quick when Dragunov locked down the choke or the sleeper or whatever it was. It was very SummerSlam 91 like, where Brett and Perfect have this great match, and the minute Brett locks in the submission, Perfect's tapping. Now, he did that because he was injured, but Walter was kind of the same deal. I don't think he was in that hold for very long, just a second or two, and he was tapping out, and it kind of caught me. I'm like, oh shit, good, hell yeah. I was like, I kind of wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting a tap out, and just the battle scars were all over these guys, especially Dragunov, and he's just so intense, and he's really good, just at the facial stuff in the ring. He's good at selling the emotion, the pain, the toughness, whatever, the rage, anything like that. They talked about his, his short temper and his short fuse and how he can tend to snap. And when he does, be somewhere else. And Walter wasn't. And he finally succumbed. And Dragunov got that monkey off his back, beat Walter in a pretty straight up fashion, having him tap out like that. I thought that was great. If you're going to pass that belt to somebody else after a run like that, it needs to be, in a great match. It needs to be in a great finish, and it needs to be putting over the next guy really strong, because whoever ends an 800-day reign has got to be a pretty big deal. So that was good. Can't say enough good things about that match. It's one I could easily watch again. So props to both guys, and congrats to Dragunov. I don't know who the hell's going to take that belt off of him. NXT UK tends to have these long runs. Didn't Pete Dunne hold it for like 6.5 years? And then Walter has a Bruno run. Now it's going to be Dragunov, and I hope he holds it for a year, man. Why not? I don't really watch NXT UK otherwise, so just let him kill everybody over there and build him up. And then, a year from now, he can drop it to somebody, and then he can be in NXT or main roster or whatever. But he's that guy's something else. There's guys like that I think are so good and could offer so much. Guys like Dragunov and Timothy Thatcher is another one that I just like. I'm looking for that next Benoit, that next Dynamite, that next little, rugged, intense motherfucker that'll just pound you into the dirt. And I miss those type of guys. And, when you see, potential there, you always get so nervous that WWE won't see that same potential and not book them that way. And even though I think NXT has a much better booking strategy and philosophy than the main roster, I haven't really been terribly thrilled with what they've done with Thatcher. I just always thought Thatcher can be like a modern day Chris Benoit in terms of like how he was viewed on the roster. Just a legit badass, not always champ, not always in the top of the card or anything, but somebody that everybody feared, everybody respected, and somebody that every time they got in the ring, the fans really enjoyed their matches. I just don't want his life to be like Chris Benoit in real life, but in terms of in the ring and the respect he commanded, not only from the fans and the audience, but the peers in the back, those are the type of guys that I think I like the most, those Benoits, those Bret Harts. And I see that in Dragunov. I see that in Thatcher. And I just hope that, they can one day kind of achieve those levels, but we'll see. In the meantime, he's going to be kicking ass, having great matches. At least the fans who appreciate NXT and know of him and stuff at least we have that. But I don't know. Vince probably hasn't even seen this guy fucking wrestle yet. So we'll see once once future unfolds for those guys and where Walter winds up going. After that was the 2 out of 3 falls match between Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. Big video package playing this up. And like we just talked about earlier, still a lot of questions with Adam Cole's future. We don't really know. Now, PW Insider tonight did confirm, and Sean Ross Sapp confirmed today, that Adam Cole, at least as of this morning, had not signed a new contract, which meant he was going to make sure he finished up his shit before he negotiated, which I think was really smart. Because if he signed, then they've got all the, the power, and they could have essentially done whatever they wanted to him tonight and in the future. But now he's kind of making him wait. I think that's awesome. I suppose legally he could technically show up on Wednesday if he wanted to, or if he so chose. But either way, he was going to be leaving NXT, and PW Insider confirmed that. I saw a tweet that I was tagged in where they said tonight was Adam Cole's last match in NXT. But again, we kind of knew that. That's not a surprise. And regardless of where he was going, AEW or the main roster, we figured the finish would be the same regardless of what that decision was. And it was. So match starts. This is a 2 out of 3 falls match where, the falls are different. Like the second fall is a street fight, third fall is a cage match, and first fall, I guess, is just a regular match. So the first fall starts, and Kyle O'Reilly scores a quick pin on Adam Cole in the corner. Cole goes for a Panama Sunrise, but O'Reilly blocks it and just pins him down. Kind of similar to how, I suppose, Owen pinned Brett at WrestleMania 10, countering the victory roll like that. Pins Adam Cole quickly, 1, 2, 3, scores the quick first fall shocker. And I was like, you know what? I wouldn't even be against a 2-0 finish, because every time there's a 2 out of 3 falls match, especially a 2 out of 3 falls match that has those stipulations like that, the one thing I don't like about those is that they give away that there's going to be a third fall. So if it's really just going to come down to one match anyway, why not just do the one match? So I've always never really liked that. When a 2 out of 3 falls match ends 2-0, I'm happy, because it should be a little bit more realistic. That should happen sometimes. They shouldn't all have to go to the third fall. So I was thinking that, if Cole was leaving, it makes sense to have Kyle put him down definitively, boom, boom, and send him on his way. It wouldn't be a burial. It would be, Cole putting over Kyle O'Reilly, a guy that's, they've really been painting as a really hard fighter, just a never say die attitude, and a badass son of a bitch at that. And they kind of did a good job of telling that story here. So he scores the first fall quickly on the counter to the Panama Sunrise. We go to the street fight next, and that's where it kind of starts getting real nasty. So we've got chairs, we've got kendo sticks, we've got trash cans, all sorts of toys in the ring. O'Reilly injures his ribs. He's up on the top corner, and I think Cole kicks him right in the ribs. He goes down, and he was selling the ribs the whole match. So that was kind of where the tables turned in the match, when Cole was able to turn the tide in his direction by really targeting the ribs. At one point, and this is probably just a troll by Cole, and I love it, at one point Adam Cole actually uses the lockjaw, his girlfriend Britt Baker's move in AEW, locks that on O'Reilly, which was really awesome to see. It could, and again, that reveals nothing. That could be one little subtle tease that, hey, I'm going to AEW, or that could just be his way of just continuously fucking with us and not letting us know anything until he shows up somewhere. So if I'm Adam Cole, just to pause here in the middle of this match, if I'm Adam Cole, wherever I show up, it's a surprise. I'm either coming out unannounced on SmackDown or Raw, or I'm coming out unannounced on AEW, and we just wait to see where that is. That can be kind of fun. Where is he going to go? So him using the lockjaw, I thought, was a nice little tease there. Very cool. He winds up, we get near the finish of the second fall, and O'Reilly's up on the top rope, and Cole goes to grab him, and he throws him off the top rope, like the Ric Flair throw. But there's 2 chairs set up in the ring, and O'Reilly lands on his back and bounces off these 2 chairs that are perfectly set up, which was just insane. Really, really nasty shot there. And as he's struggling to get up from that, Adam Cole hits him with the last shot from behind for the win and wins the second fall. Now here they tell a great story in the third fall. The third fall is a cage match. So as soon as the second fall is over, the lights go down, and you hear that doon, 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 and they start, making the cage kind of fold in on itself. It's crazy how they put cages together now. But as that's happening, Cole is like, I'm not waiting for this. And he attacks O'Reilly before the cage is even lowered. So he gets O'Reilly on the outside of the ring, winds up power bombing him on the announce table. The doctors are out there checking on Kyle. He doesn't even look like he's going to be able to compete. And Adam Cole now has got an early advantage on him, kicking his ass some more before the cage match even starts. So finally they get O'Reilly back in the ring. The cage lowers. The match is about to start. These two guys start kicking the shit out of each other for a while. And O'Reilly starts showing his, kind of never say die attitude here after already being in a terrible disadvantage, hurt ribs, got attacked before the third match started. O'Reilly hits him with the Panama Sunrise and Kyle kicks out. So that's when you knew, Cole kind of knew it's going to be tough to put this guy down. So Cole pulls out a wild card, which happens to be a pair of handcuffs. And I was wondering here, because I'm certain that Kyle O'Reilly is going to win. And I'm like, well, if he handcuffs Kyle, how the fuck is Kyle going to get out of this? I'm thinking they might do a deal where Kyle like rips off the handcuffs, in a fit of rage or something. But Cole handcuffs Kyle to the ring rope, and he's stuck there. So essentially, Cole can just escape the cage and win this bitch. But he continues the attack on O'Reilly, and that was the story earlier on in the match too, where he had a kind of a chance to win it, but he chose to dish out more punishment, which cost him. So now he's got O'Reilly basically cuffed, and O'Reilly is able to counter with one hand, get him down and lock him into a submission. And O'Reilly has got the submission on Adam Cole while his hand is attached to the ring post, and Cole taps out, which I just thought was a really clever finish and a really good way to really put over Kyle as a very resourceful fighter. This is a one-armed man with bruised ribs that's still able to grab a hold of you, wrestle you down, and submit you. That's frightening. But for some reason, the finish fell incredibly flat. The audience, I thought WWE had a little bit of control who was in the CWC. I was still under the impression that it was just a handful of people. But the crowd did not seem to like it. They did not seem to like this babyface winning this hard-fought match against this heel. Some of them were even chanting bullshit. And the whole entire finish, while I think was a great idea, just was executed wrong or something. It just had this flat, underwhelming feel to it, which I hated because the match was good and the whole idea of the finish I really liked. If the crowd would have popped, I would have popped too. So I was just kind of really surprised at the response of that because I thought the story they told was pretty good. And Adam Cole, you got to respect his run in NXT and everything he did there. He's arguably the most successful NXT talent ever in terms of what he's done, the title belts he's had, and just the time he's spent on the top of the card in the main event and being a focal point of storylines for so long. For him to go out like this is exactly what you want. You don't want anything less than Cole having a kick-ass match with another kick-ass piece of talent on the brand and putting that piece of talent over. Even, telling the story of how tough O'Reilly is with all the punishment he took, with the cheap shots that he took, the injured ribs and the attack before the cage match and all of that, and being handcuffed. And he still fights back and overcomes all those odds and puts down his nemesis and is able to move on now with his life, hopefully on to championship gold someday in the future. This is a big day for him. Cole did exactly what he should do. Cole's a professional. This is exactly how anybody leaving any promotion should go out. Do the favor. Make sure that they can carry on. NXT's got to continue. Kyle can run off of this now. I'm the one who ran Adam Cole out of NXT. He's not here because of me. I think Kyle should turn heel, especially if Cole goes to AEW. I think Kyle should turn heel, and be like, yeah, you're never going to see that long-haired, skinny freak here again. I ran him right out of here because he's scared of me. He's a little bitch. Whatever. I'd do that. So I don't know. I just appreciated the match. I appreciated Cole. If this is the end for Cole and he's heading over to AEW, even though we all want him to go there, very, very few people want him to stick around in WWE. We can all agree that he was treated very well in NXT. He had a hell of a run in NXT, hell of a career, and a career that I'm very proud of. Like, that's an awesome run. Everything Adam Cole did when he came in seemingly was money for the short time that he was there in terms of NXT. And that unfortunately might not be the same case on the main roster, but wherever he goes, it's just going to be cool to see him somewhere else other than NXT. And it's, it's bittersweet. It's awesome to appreciate the run that he had in NXT, but also sad that it's come to an end. That was a hell of a run. Hell of a run. So congrats to Adam Cole on that hell of a run. And congrats to Kyle O'Reilly for winning a pretty big pay-per-view match. That was good stuff. And unfortunately, for poor Samoa Joe and Karrion Kross, they had to follow those two matches. They had to follow Dragunov and Walter and Cole and O'Reilly. And by some miracle, they actually did pretty well. I thought the match was good. You weren't going to get the same type of action out of these two that you got out of the previous two matches because they're different styles, and Joe's older and bigger, and this is going to be more of a, of a hand-to-hand striking combat submission type of shit. And I thought they did a really good job here. Cross and Joe, both were able to show the other that they're capable of manhandling the other, which I thought was good. And it was, hard hitting and brutal, and it was just a beefy fight, which is exactly what I expected. And Cross, was showing that he had an answer for a lot of what Joe had, but Joe was not backing down from Cross, and this is the first time Cross has run into somebody that he can't mow down. And I know there's been a lot of problems with Cross since he went up to the roster. They made him lose to Jeff Hardy. They stripped away the Scarlet and a lot of what his entrance was about. Scarlet is still with him on all the promo posters, but for some reason she's not around. I preferred the way it was, but I got to admit, I don't really hate the change they made to his entrance, at least to how it came off on NXT. I like how he was black and white, coming to the ring, backstage. They show him coming through Gorilla, making his entrance down the aisle, getting into the ring. And then as soon as he steps in the ring, the music kicks up and everything goes into full color. I like that. I mean, that was kind of cool, but I still think everybody kind of preferred the way it was before. But they've already gotten a look at him. He's already been moved up to the main roster, which is what I hate about WWE's thinking, because it made this very, very obvious. From the minute Joe came back as commissioner, what did we all say? That very night, that's going to be your match. Joe and Cross. Cross is dropping the belt. He's going to the main roster. That's exactly the way it went. You could have seen this thing coming from 7 miles a fucking way. The minute Regal announced Joe, that was it. That's your new NXT champion. It was a guarantee. So that all, is kind of frustrating when if they're going to bring Karrion Kross up, fine. But can't you just wait till he drops the belt and then do something like that with him or whatever? It's like they want to get a look at him on TV before they make the decision to bring him up. But then that fucks up a lot of what NXT does. You should be able to tell by NXT. What do you think? That's what NXT is there for. It was like a little condensed, smaller version of WWE's production for the wrestlers to learn. You should be able to tell a lot, from what you already have there and what you can see. That's what NXT is for. So when they bring him up to the main roster to give him tryouts on Raw, so Vince or whoever the fuck can look at him, it's like, well, shit, now you're kind of giving away what your plans are, and, it makes it a little bit less fun, because I like Samoa Joe. I like Samoa Joe more as a wrestler than I do like Karrion Kross, but I did appreciate Karrion Kross's run, thought he was a badass, thought he had a great look and all of that stuff, but I knew what the outcome was going to be, so it made it like less awesome. The only thing that was awesome is the finish. They kind of caught me off guard there, and we've seen our first muscle buster in I don't know how long. Joe actually got Kross up in that very scary and dangerous move and nailed Kross with it and pinned him for the win, which I really liked for a couple of reasons. Number one, because welcome back Muscle Buster. And number two, I'm not tapping out Karrion Kross. He's already going to be in enough trouble as it is when he gets to the main roster. And if they've arguably already, kind of had not done him any favors with his treatment there already. The last thing I'm doing before he gets there is tapping him out. So at least with a pin, it is what it is. I'm assuming he'll go straight to the main roster. Maybe he'll have another match with Joe. I don't know, but he'll probably be on Raw tomorrow. I'll probably see him. He's probably on his way to San Diego. Maybe we'll meet up and have a frosty brew. So anyway, tonight, I can't really say anything bad about TakeOver. What would you guys give the show? What would you grade TakeOver? A, B, C, or D? 1 through 10? I'd give it a 7.5 at least, maybe an 8. I think 7.5 is probably fair. Dragunov and Walter was obviously match of the night. I was happy with all the outcomes. I think I was perfect in my predictions. I believe I was, although I'm not. Yeah, I was definitely perfect in my predictions on that. And at SummerSlam, I only got one match wrong, I think. So in the entire weekend of predictions, 2 shows, I think I got one match completely wrong and one match half wrong. I predicted Bianca Belair would lose the title. I just predicted the wrong person to win it. So maybe that match just cancels it out. But there was only one match, I believe, where that I predicted wrong. Yeah, looking at the card now. Yeah, so anyway, we'll talk about SummerSlam right now. Let's get into it. We got 8.5s, B+, B+, 7.5 to 8, 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10. Fair enough. I guess I was undershooting it. I'll give it a B+. You can't not give a card that has Dragunov Walter 2 on it anything less than a B+. So I guess I'm an asshole. Sorry about that. Should have given it an 8. I agree with the 8s. A minus. I can even agree with that sort of as well. They were chanting, well, the little gas crowd in the arena was chanting, "We want Scarlett." That's fucking hilarious. Let me go up and knock out these super chats that I might have missed when I was talking, and then we'll get into SummerSlam. I know we got JJ Leg and maybe somebody else. JJ, earlier on you sent the $5 super chat in. Thank you for that, man. Nothing wrong with homegrown talent, but doing it to that scale is worrisome to me. Future of AEW is looking bright just on that news. Right, and that's the thing. There is nothing wrong with homegrown talent. You do want some of that, but you don't want to eliminate, like you're limiting, like I said, you're limiting your talent pool. You're limiting your talent options, and some of the biggest stars ever, came from that. That's where your Jerichos and Benoits and, and guys came from, and, some really awesome talent. And it feels like they're just throwing in the towel. Like they don't want to try to compete with AEW on a wrestling fans level. They want stars. They want larger than life comic book superhero looking guys. And like I was at SummerSlam last night. Every time I go to a WWE event in modern times, I went on a long drought that ended in 2018 when I went to Survivor Series and Takeover in LA. And since then, I've been to the Jericho Cruise where I saw Dynamite. I've been to the first SmackDown on Fox where Kofi dropped the belt. And now I've been to SummerSlam. And every time I go to one of these shows, I'm reminded of who WWE's audience is. And, it is just a lot of casual fans, a lot of fans like us, but also a lot of kids and a lot of people that don't sit around YouTube and watch bald idiots like me talk for hours on end about pro wrestling. They don't really follow that much of backstage stuff, and they're young and they're just, they like big, bright, shiny things, which is why WWE is so fucking big and bright and shiny. And they're so goddamn obsessed with LED lights and brightness and crazy. And it's very, they target, a certain demographic that might not care about the same shit that we care about. When I was waiting to get in the building yesterday, this adorable little kid. And by the way, I saw a shit ton. That stadium last night was 20 to 25% those green John Cena shirts. I understand why they're not turning him heel. To this day, that motherfucker's selling more merch than anybody. And there was this adorable little kid, couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old, and he's got the green John Cena shirt, he's got the green John Cena headband, he's got the green wristbands, and he's got this bottle of Powerade that's as big as him. He's clutching it, this red Powerade. He's got red shit all over his face, and he's at the thing, he's talking to the lady on the other side of the gate. When are you going to let us in? When are you going to let us go see John Cena? And I see that, I'm like, that kid is fucking adorable. And that's just... I understand, like maybe I'm getting old and soft, but as much as I would love to see a John Cena heel turn, I'm going to let the kids have him. I wouldn't want them to lose him, and I know a lot of us find it silly that John Cena's so beloved and everything, but if you were 5, you'd love him too. And, I've always defended John Cena for a decade on this channel. You guys know that. I don't have to rehash that. But when I go to a show, I'm kind of reminded of who their audience is. And, we are probably, part of that we're a minority there. So they are now trying to build and grow these stars on their own. But that just seems like it's just a dumb decision. You can grow your own, but don't eliminate finding them elsewhere either. Because, you're not doing anybody any favors there. And then when you take these people that have no fucking wrestling ability or experience, and then you try to make them into a wrestler, and then you decide they're not for you, and then you release them out into the wild, and now these people are going to venture into the indie world only knowing WWE, and it's going to be a whole new world for them too. I mean, they're basically going to have to start from scratch. And almost learn a completely different form. Because in WWE, you're taught to be a star, and you're taught blocking and where the camera is, and, and how to, because you notice every single wrestler that comes out when they make their entrance, they have to come out, stop for 3 seconds, do a little pose, and then go. That's the type of shit you're going to be taught. You're not going to be taught drill. I mean, you're going to be taught that drills and how to wrestle and how to work and stuff. They do have good trainers there, but you're missing out, on that paying dues. I don't like the stories of everybody piling up 30 guys in a hotel room or a rental car or sleeping on people's floors. The starving artist shit is not fun. You don't have to do it, but you should pay a little bit of dues, and you should be able to see and learn how to make a living in wrestling the right way, and how it ain't fucking easy, and there's a lot of things you need to learn, some basic shit you need to learn before you even think about going into a environment like WWE. And here they just want to start them from scratch. And I just think that's not a good idea to go in that one direction. You can do both like they've always done, but My God, that's just, it's frightening to hear that, when we were so happy about WWE the last few years, they've been signing indie stars, and it's been good for the fans, for that audience. Say, good, it's about time these guys got some work, and now there might actually be a reason to watch WWE, because we have NXT where we can see all these guys. We can see Kevin Steen and Sami Zayn and all these dudes, and now it's like that philosophy's completely changed. And a lot of that is due to that audience, and who they are and shit. Did I get another one in here, or was that it? Zane G, thanks for the $5 from you as well. Would you say that had Cole won, it would be a hint of him possibly staying? I had an awesome experience in theaters for SummerSlam last night. Oh, you did? You saw it in the theater? That's pretty cool. Yeah, if Cole won, I think he would definitely stay. They wouldn't put him over on the way out the door. That wouldn't benefit anybody. You got to put O'Reilly over in that situation. So yeah, if he did win, then he's definitely staying. They wouldn't have done that. But I'm glad he lost. He should have lost. We want Scarlett and Hardy. That's funny. We were getting a lot of chants tonight. I did see Gable Stevenson took the picture with Vince McMahon. He was backstage at the SummerSlam, I guess. And yeah, I wasn't aware that there was other wrestling Mario shirts. Last night when Cena came out, they flashed the big logo on the screen. I'm like, holy shit, it's like the style of Mario 3, which I love. I thought that was cool, but apparently other people have already done it, and so that's pissed fans off. So whatever. But Cena's always been old school. He used to have the old 8-bit Nintendo shirt. I always liked that one. So I don't care if anybody did it before, but he did have some new gear last night. All right, let's get into SummerSlam. I'm going to talk to you guys about that. Let me switch my overlay here, and we'll get into that stuff. All right, so last night, SummerSlam. I was there. It was a great time. It was cool to be back at SummerSlam for the first time in 21 years. Last time I was at SummerSlam was in 2000 in Raleigh. I saw the big TLC match, or the big, TLC match. The first one with Edge and Christian and the Hardys and the Dudleys. The Rock, Triple H, and Kurt Angle main evented that night. We had Benoit and Jericho on the undercard, along with Taker and Kane. We also had Shane McMahon and Steve Blackman. Shane took the big bump off the scaffolding there down to the ground and stuff. That was a great SummerSlam, and I had great seats for that show. So it's been 21 years. If you were born when I went to that first one, you can drink now. That is a long gap between SummerSlams. So it was good to be back and see this one. We got in real early. We were able to kind of look around, get a look at the set and the layout and how everything looked. It looked so awesome. And like I said, we got in really late on Saturday morning because we were supposed to leave Friday morning and get there a full day early, maybe do some gambling, hang out in the hotel, and then go to the show the next day. But then some things came up that kind of prevented us from leaving on Friday as early as we wanted. So I was like, well, why don't we just stay and I'll do a live reaction of Rampage, and I'll be able to watch all that, watch the CM Punk return with all of you, because up until that point, I was looking for a place to watch it in Vegas. But I was like, I'd rather be home for that. So we were able to watch that on Friday night, and it was a lot of fun. And as soon as I was done with the stream, we hopped in the car and we drove all night and got into Vegas around 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe 3:30, something like that. And our hotel was right across the street from the arena. We were right there. So I put some videos and pictures up on Twitter when we were getting in. When you drive in, you can't, like, Allegiant Stadium is just right in your face. It's like right there. And you're literally sleeping feet away from it. So it was really cool getting into town there. And then we slept, got some lunch when we woke up, and then walked over to the building pretty early and got in right away and kind of looked around. And, it was a pretty cool setup. I mean, I didn't go crazy with the stage or anything, but it gave me kind of what I thought. I knew from the seating chart that the stage was going to be kind of curved, or the entrance was going to be curved like that from when I bought my tickets. So I kind of had a feeling that they were going to kind of block off half of the arena and just show the other half, which is kind of how the way it looked. But it was still, kind of cool to see that scale, be at a show that big again. It's been a long time since I've been in a stadium for a wrestling show. Been plenty of arenas for wrestling shows, but a stadium, it's been since 1987 in the Silverdome since I've done that. So it was cool to kind of visualize and be in Allegiant Stadium. That's a beautiful new building. Ironically, they showed a little video during the show, a little video package of the Raiders, and they got booed. Everybody in the arena booed the Raiders video package. I'm like, this is the team that's supposed to play there. So I don't even think their own city likes this team, which I got a huge kick out of that when they were booing. So anyway, people start filing in. We start the kickoff, and up until that point, I hadn't seen any kickoff match announced, but I wasn't looking very hard. I just had my phone on me, so I didn't know if there was going to be anything on the kickoff at all, and it turned out to be Big E versus Corbin. Now, all of my, my comments here on all of these matches are going to be very brief because I'm only going to tell you what I saw. I have not watched SummerSlam yet on TV. I haven't gone back and looked at any matches or seen anything how it came off. I only know kind of what I saw with my own eyes. So I just wrote down all of the results by memory, and I'll try to do my best to kind of give you my thoughts on it. Now with Big E and Corbin, I thought they were maybe hinting to us that we might see Big E again, especially since Corbin kind of stole the briefcase and he came out there with it, and Big E wound up beating him, and I think he recaptured the briefcase, and so Big E had it back, and I'm like, maybe they're setting that up for him to come out later. I really thought Big E coming out later was a real possibility, so I was kind of keeping my fingers crossed for that. They opened the show with the perfect match to open the show, at least from my perspective. RK Bro taking on AJ and Omos. We've been calling this thing from the very first minute that Orton and Riddle began their little deal with each other. I'm like, that's got to be the tag team titles at SummerSlam. So opening with this and giving RK Bro that moment was awesome. I can't remember who got the finish, if it was Riddle or Orton or whatever, but they ended up pinning AJ Styles. I think Orton hit him with one of them hit him with the RKO, I think, and pinned him. So we've got brand new tag team champions, RK Bro. Riddle looked to be, on cloud nine. He was running around so happy. The fans really liked it. They got a good pop in the arena. I don't know how it came off on TV, but everybody was really happy that they picked up the win there. And that's kind of the way you had to do that. So I'm really happy that they're tag team champions. Now we will see how long their little run lasts, but I'm in no rush to break them up. They're going to have to break up. There's going to have to be that heartbreaking moment, but you can run a couple months with this. Let's not rush anything. Let's have some fun and let Riddle and Randy do their thing because they're great. I will guarantee goddamn fucking to you, I'm going to see this rematch in person live tomorrow. They're definitely going to run this back because it's just the way WWE books shit. So it's either going to be a tag team rematch, or it's going to be a one-on-one match, or it's going to be a contenders match where AJ and Omos will try to get another shot. But they will get another shot because that's just what WWE does. A little bit later on, backstage, we saw on the screen anyway, I'm assuming you guys saw this at home as well, Mario Lopez interviewed RK Bro, so they were saved by the bro. I don't know what the hell he was doing there. When I was at Survivor Series in 2018, we saw Mario Lopez. He was farting around the arena doing stuff. So he's always seemed to have a relationship with them. So he interviewed RK Bro after the match. I couldn't really hear what they were saying, but that happened. The next matchup was Alexa Bliss and Eva Marie. Now, there were those Lily dolls all over the arena. They were at all the merch stands, and I saw a few of them, a pretty good amount of them actually, in the audience, which was a huge disappointment to me because I remember reading earlier on this week, I think it might have been Andrew Zarian, who I also saw at SummerSlam. I didn't get a chance to see him. I saw him. He was pretty close to me. I was going to go over and say hi, but every time I got a chance, there was too much shit going on. I didn't want to leave and walk up and walk around or whatever. But I was able to meet a few fans and a couple of other, YouTuber and social media personalities, which was fun. But I think it was Andrew who had said earlier in the week that they were looking at merch sales this weekend. They were going to be paying close attention to that, probably primarily to, Alexa Bliss's sales and shit like that. However, when I was walking around, I never buy merch at the shows anymore. Back in my day, I was telling Elizabeth this, back in my day when we would go to Raws and stuff, when Austin first got on the map, it was like a riot at the merch stands. And anybody who went to a show in like 98, 99, or 2000, you know what I'm talking about, especially 98 or 97. 97 was the big one when those Austin 316 shirts were still pretty new. He had just gotten his second shirt. And when you would go to the merch stands, it was just gobs of people, and they would always sell out. So people would literally be pushing and shoving, and you'd be getting up there as quickly as you could. It doesn't matter what match is going on in the ring. It's not worth it. You're going to come. You need to get your Austin shirt. And it was so crazy. And a lot of times they would sell out. I was at several shows where they had no Austin shirts. So I'm walking around looking at the merch stands, and all I see, it's all Roman, Cena, the Lily dolls. I don't even know if I saw any Edge merch or anything. There might have been one or two others, but I don't think there was any more than 4 or 5 wrestlers merchandise available. They didn't have everything. And then, of course, a shitload of title belts. They had SummerSlam masks. They had SummerSlam shirts, shit like that. Of course, they had the green Cena shirt. They had the Roman shirt and all of that, but they didn't have a very big variety of shirts. So I guess they, if you want something like that, you just got to do it off, the internet now. So it seemed like as many merch stands as they had, which there were a million of them, it only had like a limited amount. So I was hoping the Lily doll wouldn't sell well, so they'll drop this stupid fucking angle. But apparently, based on what I saw with my eyes, that Lily doll sold pretty well. They were everywhere. So We get Alexa and Eva Marie up next, and Alexa Bliss does beat Eva Marie. Again, the details of the finish are a little foggy on that one, but I do know that Doudrop had a little bit to do with that, and after the match, she got on the mic and announced Eva Marie as the loser. So I was hoping that Doudrop would do a full turn here and get on them. I think the SummerSlam crowd would have appreciated that. I was waiting for that. I was talking to somebody in a neighboring seat. I'm like, I hope she kicks the shit out of Eva Marie, like Alex Riley in the Miz style, and then gets on the mic and says, my name's Piper Niven, asshole, not Doudrop, and smacks her around and beats her ass. We didn't get quite that far, but now there's definitely going to be a problem between the two of them, and maybe tomorrow here in San Diego at Raw, we'll get the final split between these two, and poor Doudrop can go back to being who she's supposed to be. We'll see. But Alexa Bliss got the victory there. It's a match that should not have even been on SummerSlam. You know, they put this bullshit on there and left people like Finn Balor off the card, and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and my God. So, stupid match, didn't care one bit about it, neither did the audience. After that, we got Damian Priest taking on Sheamus. Sheamus defending the United States Championship, and this one wasn't a hard one to predict either. Priest has been, pretty protected since he's been on TV, even though he's done a whole lot of repetitive shit and his booking hasn't been great or anything by any means. He's been winning, and he's been winning a lot, and he hasn't really been beat or really heavily tested yet, and now they're putting him in a program with Sheamus, and I felt like this definitely is going to be a U.S. title program, and Priest, they're probably going to want to give him the title at SummerSlam and have him go there. They could trade the belt back now. I know we're going to get a rematch. Like I said, we're going to get RK Bro and AJ and Omos tomorrow for sure, or possibly, and if we don't get that, we'll definitely get Priest and Sheamus for sure. Or we'll get a championships contenders match. Maybe Sheamus now has to beat Priest to get a match at the next pay-per-view or whatever. But that will continue tomorrow night, no doubt about it. Right after that, I have in my notes here, no beer, exclamation point. So right after that must have been when we went up to try to go get a nice new frosty alcoholic beverage, and they couldn't sell us one because, in case you weren't here earlier when I was giving my overall thoughts of the show, about 3 matches in last night, the payment system went down in Allegiant Stadium, and this is a no-cash facility, so it's all electronic. So basically, you're up there trying to get a beer, and they're like, oh, we're rebooting the system. We're waiting for it to come back up, and it never came back up. So many people thought it would just be down for a little while or whatever, and I remember saying, I'm like, boy, that sucks. If this thing is down for 30 minutes, they're going to lose a ton of money in alcohol sales and everything sales because nobody can buy anything. All the food is sitting there, the beer is on ice, and nobody can have any because their system went down. I'm like, this sucks. Well, we keep asking around, when everything's going to be coming back up, and they're not really saying anything, and nobody's, they're saying, oh, it's still not up. And basically it never came back up. So we waited 2 more matches and went up again just to see if we could, if we could get a beer or get anything yet. And now the lines are moving a little bit because they're giving away food. The system just wasn't up. So unfortunately they couldn't give away alcohol, but they were giving away food. If you wanted a hot dog, a soda, nachos, whatever you wanted, you could get it. They were giving it to you. We didn't give a shit about food. We just want to sit there and have a couple of beers. So we went up there. We got a soda, I think, a couple of sodas, and they gave them to us and went and sat back down. I'm like, that sucks. So for the rest of the evening, only for about 1 hour, were they able to sell concessions, and then after that, nothing. So I don't even want to fathom how much money was lost. I don't know what kind of figures these big stadiums do for concessions, but you guys have all been to a ball game, football game, wrestling event. Well, how much does a hot dog cost? $36? How much does a Coke cost? $12? And add a $19 beer to that, plus taxes and service charge. You can have a hot dog, a beer, and a bag of chips for, I think, $103.50 is what it'll cost you at a game. So the fact that they're losing thousands of sales like that per second, all those concession stands, that every time I went up there, each and every one of them had a huge line behind. Thousands and thousands of hot dogs every fucking minute, bleeding out money. So I don't know how badly that fucked up their revenue and stuff. That was probably pretty bad, and that sucks. And hopefully it didn't cause any problems with WWE's merch stands. I didn't even go to check on that. I'm assuming they have their own internal payment system or operation to get that done. They have their own little machines and their own little credit cards. But, the Wi-Fi was still working. I was still tweeting, posting videos and pictures during this. I was connected to the Allegiant Stadium Wi-Fi, so I had Wi-Fi. I saw other people complaining that toilets were backed up and stuff or something like that. It wasn't a complete disaster. It was just most people in the audience probably didn't even really care that was going on. But, it was kind of annoying. And later on, they would reference that when Jinder and Drip Drip came out and they talked about how dry the fucking show was because it was very dry. It's like going to a Christian wedding. It sucked. So, yeah, that wasn't cool. And a big botch by Allegiant Stadium. Not cool. I was looking forward to having a couple of more Greg Weisers, and fuck me over, Allegiant Stadium. So anyway, it'll be interesting to kind of read any details on that if any are available this week. After that, we get the SmackDown tag team titles on the line. The Usos defending against Rey and Dominic Mysterio. I had called for a Dominic heel turn here. This would have been so great if they did it because Rey and Dominic have kind of been teasing that a little bit on TV, and I predicted the Usos to win here, and I was like, what better stage to have Dominic and Rey split up than at SummerSlam, that on the very same place, 16 years prior, Rey is fighting his heart out for custody of a son. And then Dominic, can do like an Owen Hart deal and kick Rey's leg out of his leg and then gets on the mic and says, Dad, I would have been tag team champions if Eddie was my dad. Oh my God, could you imagine? Could you imagine the pop that would get? That's what I was hoping for. I didn't get it. The Usos won. I think from what I could tell, there was still a little more, there's going to still be some lingering problems with Dominic and Rey, but I would have done the split right there, man. And they didn't do it. Shout out to Rey and Dominic. From what I could tell from where I was sitting, they appeared to be wearing gear inspired by Randy Savage. He used to have a robe that was very similar to Dominic's thing, and he had the MM for the Macho Man on the lapels or whatever, and Dominic kind of had DM on his trunks and it had the same color scheme, like white and pink. And then Rey was wearing the same thing. He had like Lucha something on the back of his trunks with the stars, same color pink that Randy Savage always wore. And I don't know if that was by accident or done by design or whatever, but definitely some Macho Man vibes. So props to the Mysterios for showing some love to Randy. That's very awesome. But in the end, I didn't get what I wanted with Dominic and Rey splitting up. That's a huge bummer for me. Huge bummer. I wanted him to say that. I wanted him to cut that promo. I'd be so much more of a man if Eddie was my father and not you. Oh, that would have been so great. Rest in peace, Eddie Guerrero. After that, here we go. We got to talk about this one next, right? Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. Now, they were still advertising this match on Friday night on SmackDown. We heard rumors about Sasha Banks. I have no idea the situation there. Sasha and Bianca were pulled from live events due to unforeseen circumstances. They were still promoting the match last night on SmackDown, which tells me they probably knew all along that Sasha wasn't going to be at the show. And they were just going to do Becky. They're like, the only way we can make this right is by doing Becky Lynch. So we don't want to advertise that. So we're just not going to say anything about Sasha. Now, they could have just said Bianca is going to have a mystery opponent, but the fans probably would have seen that coming a mile away. So I'm not going to defend the finish of this match, but I will defend the decision for them to go with it as advertised all the way up until the end, because otherwise a lot of fans would have smelled that return. We've been waiting for Becky. I kind of thought she was going to show up tomorrow and go back to Raw. I have a feeling WWE switched gears there. I kind of thought that Becky might stay on Raw, and then in the draft, Seth will follow her over, because Seth and Becky are going to have to be on the same show. They're married with a kid. WWE would not separate them. That would be a really, really dick move. So Seth was either going to go to Raw or Becky was going to go to SmackDown. And I bet you anything, the original plan was for Seth to go to Raw. But now that Sasha is out, they lost a big SummerSlam match. I mean, in my predictions, I predicted Sasha to win back the title, and she's not even on the show. And we had a feeling that she might not be. It was broke by was it Raj earlier today that said, or the other day that said that Sasha wasn't going to be at the show and to expect that. And people gave him shit about it, and he turned out to be right. So Bianca comes out, and she has no opponent. And we'll speculate onto what might be going on with Sasha in a second. Pregnancy could be big, but I don't know. Like who has that type of information? Sasha might be pregnant. A lot of people also speculated it might be COVID, but I think they might, they might say that, or Sasha might say something if it was COVID. Sasha, incidentally, did tweet on Friday. She said, I'm so excited for today or something like that. And that was on Friday. I'm like, what, are you excited to watch CM Punk, return? Is she teasing? What the hell is she teasing here? And where the fuck is she? So, if it's a pregnancy, congratulations to her. If it's COVID related, then, we've heard about I guess some people are assuming that she's kind of an anti-vaxxer or whatever. I mean, I don't have any sympathy for anybody that gets COVID if they're like that. I mean, especially if it was somebody like Sasha, who's got this huge pay-per-view match, this huge payday. And just because you're fucking stupid and you won't get a vaccine, you've lost that payday now. But that might not even be the case. We don't even know. Only thing I care about is that Sasha Banks is okay. That's all we want here. So it doesn't appear, based on the fact that she was tweeting on Friday, that anything's immediately wrong with her. And I think if there was, we might hear a little bit more of that. So as long as she's okay, whatever the situation is, what it is, and WWE handled it the best way possible. So I think all of that I can defend. HTK is saying WWE did false advertising though. No, they didn't. It's right at the bottom of every single pay-per-view. What does it say? Say it with me now. Card subject to change. They can change it. They've done it before. Situations happen. And when you look at it like that, yeah, you don't want to false advertise something and give the fans something else. If they would have stuck with Carmella, that would have sucked. I give you that, but you have to think about what I just talked about a minute ago. If they would have said ahead of time or said on Friday that Sasha can't make the show, so Bianca's going to be facing a mystery opponent, who is going to not think it's Becky Lynch? I mean, there's not going to be one person surprised in that audience. The fans are going to be chanting her name before she even comes out to the ring. So by going in this direction and having Bianca come out for the match as always, and then just have the ring announcer say Sasha cannot compete, and then bring out Carmella, fans were like, oh, this sucks or whatever. So the fact that Carmella got in the ring, you thought that was going to be the match, and then Becky Lynch's music hits. The crowd popped huge. I'm sure it looked great on TV as well. And she came out. It was really great to see her. I was so happy to see Becky back. We've all been waiting for it. So I'm like, you know what? This is actually a reasonable substitute. Yes, it's a bummer we didn't get Sasha and Bianca, but at least we're getting Becky, and now we might be getting Becky and Bianca. This should be a pretty goddamn good match, and a new match that we've never seen before. So up until this point, I'm all for it. I'm defending any decision they're doing. I got no issues with what I'm seeing so far. I don't know what's going on with Sasha. She's not here, so best wishes to her of whatever's going on, but Becky's here now. This should be good. She gets on the mic and says, why don't we do the match right now for the title? I think, does somebody beat the hell out of Carmella? They somehow get her out of there. And Bianca, of course, because Bianca's not scared of shit, she's like, yeah, sure, title's on the line, no problem, be an honor to face you. Babyface Becky Lynch, who's had a impressive year-long run before getting pregnant and having to leave, it would be my honor to wrestle you in a good spirited wrestling match. And Becky, clocks her one. I think it was Bianca tried to go for a handshake or something like that before the match, and then Becky just belts her and blasts her and picks her up and hits her with the rock bottom or whatever she calls it, and just pins her. And Bianca did a good job of selling it. She actually looked a little bit, I saw it up on the big screen, she looked like she was a little just dazed, like she just got knocked unconscious or the wind knocked out of her just long enough for Becky to score a quick pin, and Bianca got up like, what the hell? And, the fans still popped for that, but I think once it settled in and sunk in what had happened, some people were like, that's just stupid. And that is, like, I'm not happy about that. It has nothing to do with Bianca Belair or anything like that. Or, oh, they buried her or they shit on her. I don't think that way. I'm not thinking along the lines of that. Yes, I don't think it was fair to Bianca Belair since they've been putting her over, smashing her over. She's been unstoppable. Won the Royal Rumble, won at WrestleMania. I don't think you needed to have a squash there. It could have been even a short match. You could still go with the story that Bianca wasn't prepared for this opponent. She should be able to at least get a punch in. You know what I mean? And plus, she's not a heel, so it makes even less sense to do a squash like this. To do a honky-tonk man and Ultimate Warrior level squash. It just it didn't seem like it did anybody any favors, because now you've put down Bianca Belair, pissing off a lot of people, and Becky, who's just coming back. WWE has now put her in a position, by no fault of her own, where she's going to be resented by a lot of audience members, because audience members don't know where to direct their anger ever. Fans don't have any idea how to control their emotions. We see that as much on Twitter and sometimes even in the chat sometimes. So, they're not going to know who to blame. They're going to be lash out at everybody. And so then you're going to start getting people hate tweeting Becky and go back and have another kid and get the fuck out of here. And you buried Bianca, you selfish. You never want to put anybody over because they just don't understand. They just don't understand. So that, WWE should know that a lot of their fan base are idiots, and they're going to direct their anger at poor Becky now, who's just come back after having a kid and working her ass off to get ready back in ring shape. She's back. She's one of their biggest stars, and they put her in this position. This is stupid. I don't. The fans could have had an easier pill to swallow there if you just let these ladies have a match. Can you give us 5 minutes? Is that so hard? Becky can win. I got no problem with Becky winning. I love Bianca, but Bianca's not above losing. She can lose. But can you let her have a match? Can you let her get a kick in, a punch, small package, something, suplex, anything? And the fact that it just went like that, I thought was just silly and just very head scratching. I don't know what the thought process is behind that. Yes, Bianca's going to be fine. She's going to come out on SmackDown now. Girl, you jumped me. I want my belt back, and she'll get the match. They'll wrestle at the next pay-per-view, and it'll be a competitive match. Maybe Bianca will win the title back, and then Becky goes back to Raw and Seth goes with her. I don't know. But you got to wonder why you would do that in this way. If Becky's going in there against a heel, if Carmella is the champion, then yes, you beat Carmella in 3.1 seconds. Just enough time to get her on the mat, and then you pin her. But Bianca Belair, come on. So I don't know what the feedback is. From what I saw on social media, people weren't happy about it. I don't know what other podcasters are saying. I would think they're probably echoing a lot of what I'm saying, but I don't know. I don't know if anybody out there that thought it was a big deal or not a big deal. I'm sure some people are taking it way too overboard. I'm not saying at all. There's some fucker on Twitter last night when I was like, that was kind of a head-scratching decision, jumped up all my ass. Bianca's going to be fine. It happened to the Honky Tonk Man in 1988. I'm like, yeah, because Honky Tonk Man and Bianca Belair are the exact same type of wrestler in the exact same type of era. Excellent comparison. It's not even the same thing. It's not even the same fucking universe as that. And again, nobody's really, or at least I'm not, debating whether or not Bianca Belair is going to be fine. Of course she's going to be fine. She's going to be fine. She's young. She's an athlete. She's going to be great. Doesn't matter, in the grand scheme of things. But that is, I don't care what anybody says, that is a questionable booking decision, and one that you would think if you want to generate the best reaction possible for your baby faces, you've done neither one of these women any favors, and you've probably turned some of them on Becky. And you may have had some people give up on Bianca now because she was looking pretty strong, and then you put her down like this. So I would have booked this match a little bit differently. You could even go short. It could still be quick because you still have the story that Bianca Belair was not prepared for this opponent, especially opponent that was so dominant when she was champion. She never did lose the belt, But again, Bianca should have got a kick in. That's just my opinion. I believe wholeheartedly that should not have been a squash to that level. Give them a 5-minute match. Let Becky catch Bianca, and then Bianca can be like, holy shit. You're like, damn, I didn't even know she was coming out here, and I didn't have time to prepare, and I was off my game, and I was rattled, and I deserve another shot. But instead, you just beat her like fucking Gilbert. I don't understand. Don't understand. But anyway, Becky is your new SmackDown Women's Champion. Congratulations to her. Like I said, I'm not convinced that this was their first choice. For Becky, I kind of felt like she'd be turning up tomorrow on Raw, and Seth would join her on the red brand when he wraps up his deal with Edge. But with Sasha being out, I think that they just set up, Becky, you're going to be on SmackDown now, and we're going to have you win the title just to spice that up, because now you can run with Bianca and Becky for a while, and Sasha can deal with whatever Sasha's dealing with. And like I said earlier, just best wishes out to Sasha. Whatever's going on, we wish her the best, and I want her back too because Sasha's awesome. I was so happy with that match at WrestleMania. That was the most impressed I've ever been with Sasha Banks. And for some reason, Sasha Banks has got a really crazy fan base. I have a lot of Sasha Banks profile pictures that follow me, so if you're in the chat here, please don't go fucking psycho. But I've always thought Sasha Banks looks like a star. I've always thought she has star potential, but I've never really been, super, super impressed with her until WrestleMania. And maybe some of the early stuff she did with Charlotte. But I just thought that match was so good, and they handled that stage like a couple of pros. And I'm really excited. I know the WrestleMania 24s are up on the network right now, the 37s or whatever. So I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see like how they chronicle that thunderstorm and all of these matches and stuff. So if you guys have seen that, let me know how it is. I'll be checking out some of that hopefully tomorrow at some point. Might not get a chance to check that out tonight. But anyway, welcome back, Becky. Wish it could have been under different circumstances, but in the end, she's back. I paid very little attention to Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal. Drew beat him, Claymored him, pinned him from what I remember. Veer and Shanky did run in after the match, and I think Drew tried to take him out with the sword, and that's all I saw there. So again, much like Alexa and Eva Marie, why the fuck was this on SummerSlam? Why couldn't this have been on Raw? And Drew is an awesome star and a great wrestler. I would like to have him on SummerSlam. Put him in the ring. Make one interpromotional match. Remember when they used to do that every now and then? Put Drew and Balor. Drew and Finn Balor or something. Give me that any day of the week over Drew and Jinder fighting over a fucking sword and a bicycle. Ugh. Anyway, so that match happened. Hopefully their issue is over with and we don't see any more of those two motherfuckers tomorrow, but we probably will see a rematch again tomorrow on Raw, 100%. And after that, another match that just pleased the fans oh so much. We didn't just have one new women's champion, we got two. I predicted this match wrong. It's the only match on the show I technically predicted wrong. I did predict Bianca Belair to lose, so maybe I get that one half right. Can you give me that? But the only match I predicted full-blown wrong was this one. And I thought Nikki ASH should retain the title based on, what's been happening to her on TV lately. And then Rhea and Charlotte can continue their thing. They can almost cancel each other out, allowing Nikki to get the win and whatever. But the superhero thing has not been getting over that great. I was interested to see and hear the response that Nikki got. Shout out to Angie. I don't know if you're here in the chat, but you had tweeted me earlier. What was the response? What was the live crowd like for Nikki ASH? And I recorded her entire entrance and posted it on Twitter. I'm like, judge for yourself. I didn't hear any boos, but it was a definite mild reaction. The people around me were cheering for her. It didn't come off that well on the camera, but it wasn't like the crowd was going nuts for her or anything like that. But I heard no boos. I wouldn't have stood for that. There's no Nikki Cross disparaging anywhere within 100 yards of me. It's not allowed. Nikki Cross could come out there dressed like a fucking giraffe and talk like Gilbert Gottfried, and I wouldn't love her any less. I just think she's amazing, and she's got such a good attitude and a great spirit, and she's exactly what wrestling needs, no matter how goofy, the gimmick is, but it is goofy. And WWE tried to go with it. Fans don't seem to be having it. And, I kind of thought that Charlotte would have had a chance to win here, and we might see Becky show up tomorrow and confront Charlotte. Maybe she still does. Maybe Becky still shows up tomorrow. And she goes, look, I showed up at SummerSlam just out of opportunity. I saw a championship belt in the ring and I went out there and took it, but my home is here. That belt is mine. If you remember, I never lost that. So not only do I want this blue one, I want that red one too. And let's fight at whatever, Extreme Rules or whatever. Maybe they go to unify the titles or something like that. I don't think they're going to do that, but who knows? Didn't really remember too many details in this match other than Charlotte doing her big corkscrew spot from the top rope. That Nikki took a pretty good hard bump on. I think her head went right up against the barricade there. Looked a little scary. And then in the ring, Charlotte, I think, wound up pinning Nikki Cross, correct? No, she figure-eighted her. She figure-eighted somebody and they tapped, right? I think it was Nikki, can't remember. But end of story is Charlotte is your new Raw Women's Champion. And help me out. What's the number now on Charlotte? What are we up to on her? 12 titles or something like that, 11, 12 titles. I don't know what it is, but she's won a lot of championships. Charlotte is back on top of the mountain again on Raw. Can't say that I'm surprised. WWE putting the title on Charlotte again at another big show. And the fans around me weren't booing or freaking out or anything like that, but I was kind of laughing because I'm like, oh man, I'm sure everybody's going to love this. So I didn't see what the response was on social media, but I'm sure it wasn't good. And Charlotte, WWE just keeps piling the titles onto Charlotte that ultimately is going to ruin her reputation with the fans until she goes into the Hall of Fame. Same thing with John Cena. They just fucking hated him, and now you're starting to see, oh yeah, we were kind of dumb for hating you. Sorry about that. It's going to take a while for Charlotte to get to that, but she'll get to that. They all do. Congrats to Charlotte, new Raw champ. After that was easily the match of the night. Maybe this match had the bigger star power and was on the bigger stage, so you could give this one a little bit of a nod over Walter and Dragunov for match of the weekend. But I could tell by the screen, everything that I was watching in the ring with no commentary, that this was a fucking great match. And you wouldn't expect anything less from these guys. Edge and Seth Rollins, are you kidding me? So Rollins comes out, and he's decked out in some pretty good-looking ring gear. And it was funny because where my seats were, where you see me standing on the screen there, That's basically where my seats were. I was only a few rows up from where I was standing. So I couldn't see the LED screens in the entranceway that you guys saw at home. But while Seth is making his entrance, I see the production crew. They're dragging out this big box thing. And I'm like, is Seth going to come out, or is Edge going to come out of a box? I had no idea what they were setting up. And it looked like Seth was even stalling in the ring with his entrance a little bit because they weren't quite ready. They were trying to do all the shit. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know what they're doing. But this has something to do with Edge's entrance, and he's going to make some grand entrance. And then you hear Gangrel's music. It's time for Edge to make his entrance. The lights go down, and you hear the Brood's old theme, which was teased last week when Edge dumped the juice all over Seth. And I guess that big box thing that they drug out was what what Edge came up through to replicate the old Brood entrance from like 1998 with the Ring of Fire. Would have been so cool if Christian wasn't signed to AEW and you got Gangrel in and the three of them did it. Oh my God. Big missed opportunity there. Christian, come back. Drop those titles and come back just so we can get the Brood entrance. So Edge comes up through that, but all I can see, I haven't seen this entrance on television either. I don't know how it looks on TV. But from where I was sitting, it looked pretty awesome to see him come up through that. And then I guess when he got into the entranceway, the music stopped, lights went out, and his On This Day theme began, and the crowd popped hard. It was awesome. They get in the ring. They go at it. This match was so fun. I don't remember the details of the match. All I remember is where I was sitting, we had a huge screen. Now, visually, I could see everything in the ring, and I watched 90% of SummerSlam looking directly into the ring, except for this match. It was one I wanted to see. So I spent most of my time looking up at the screen, watching the whole thing, and just thought it was fantastic. Two pros on this stage came through. I knew this match was going to be good, but it almost maybe even exceeded my expectations a little bit, all the way down to the finish. I kind of saw a spear and a quick pin type of finish here. I did not think Seth Rollins was going to win. I had Edge predicted in this all the way. You know, he lost and got stacked at WrestleMania. He hasn't wrestled since. I can't see him coming in and losing here. Or he might have wrestled on SmackDown or something. But this next big pay-per-view event, I couldn't see him dropping this match. So, and on top of that, I feel like this is going to be a program. I think we're going to get more of Edge and Seth Rollins. However, maybe we won't, because the finish was a submission. Edge kept trying to lock in. It was almost like an STF or whatever that thing was. And Seth was trying to get to the ropes a bunch of times, and he couldn't. And Edge was able to roll through it. And in the end, Seth Rollins taps out to Edge, which I think is huge in terms of their story and how Seth is going to spin this. Because as I've said before, I expected this to be a program that's going to be a 2 or 3 match deal. With Seth, even if he takes a loss, even if he gets pinned, Seth is the exact type of heel that would come out on SmackDown and claim some bullshit or pretend that he never even lost and demand a rematch or goad Edge into something else or make a stipulation or whatever. We're going to see these guys work again. I suppose it's possible now that with the submission that we don't, and Edge maybe takes more time off before coming back to do something else. And Seth Rollins might move into a program with somebody else at this point since he tapped out. But I was hoping that Seth and Edge will do a gimmick match maybe. I think the next pay-per-view, correct me if I'm wrong, is Extreme Rules, right? That's in September. So you could do a gimmick match there, a stipulation match where Seth wins, and then maybe Edge wins the blow-off or something like that, or maybe Seth wins the blow-off. Either one of them could win the blow-off at this point. But I thought the first match should be a decisive win for Edge, and it was good stuff. Very happy I got to see that first time ever match in person. It's just cool to be there and say, yeah, I can put that match in my cap. I've seen some good matches. I've seen Hogan and Andre. I've seen some awesome Benoit and Jericho matches, and I've seen Austin win the title a couple times. So this one ranks right up there in terms of like special moments. Edge and Seth, very, very cool to watch that. We needed to be cooled off after that, because now we're down to our final 2 title matches. So in between all this shit, they bring out Miz and Morrison, who come out, and I almost started to think in my head, I'm like, okay, who's off TV right now? Who's out with an injury? What legend hasn't been signed? What free agent is out there? Because they're coming out to the ring. This is SummerSlam. So I'm assuming if they're coming out to the ring to do something, they're going to get their asses kicked by somebody. Brock actually came in my mind. I'm like, could Brock come back and just fuck these 2 guys up? Why would they put them out there on SummerSlam if they're not going to do anything? So they're coming out there and they're talking about drip sticks and moist. Oh, they kind of joke with the crowd saying that it's a very dry audience because, of course, we couldn't get no liquor or alcohol sold to us because the system went down. So they made fun of us for that. They probably had all the alcohol they wanted in catering. They didn't bring me none. So they're out in the ring running their mouth. And then Xavier Woods shows up dressed in an amazing Scott Hall cosplay type of deal. That was very cool. But he's got this big jug of water, like one of those 5-gallon jugs that are heavy. He's wearing this thing like a backpack, and he's basically just made a squirt gun out of it. And he gets on the mic and he says, "Should I squirt him?" And basically it's just a silly ass segment where he just squirts him with water. They sell the water as if they got punched in the face or chopped by Walter. You know, as soon as Xavier squirts Miz with water, he bumps, Morrison bumps. They're flipping and flopping and looking like idiots everywhere. And then Xavier like chases them down with the water thing. I have no idea the status of Kofi. Is he hurt or something? Not sure where he is, but he's not been around. And I thought for sure he might join Xavier out there. Or I thought Xavier might be pulling a fast one like the New Day did all those years ago at WrestleMania when they brought out the Hardy Boys. I thought maybe Xavier was going to fake out Miz and Morrison and then announce somebody returning and they come out and kick the shit out of them. I thought that might happen, but instead they just got doused with water and that was it. Totally necessary. But I get it. You needed a buffer. You needed a breather. People needed to go get a chance to go take a piss and, you know, hopefully get a snack, although that was going to be difficult. And just breathe a bit before we got into Bobby Lashley defending the WWE title against Bill Goldberg, which was next. Before we get into the final two matches, though, let me just cruise over here into the chat and see if anybody's got any more interesting stuff to say. I think there's at least a super chat in here that I need to get to. From Reese Jones, good to see you and welcome back. Good to see a Patreon supporter in here. I met another Patreon supporter as well, who's a frequent super chatter at the show. He came over to my seat to say hello. Very good to see you. He goes by Population 420 on here if you see him in here. Was it just you, Reese? Okay, there you are. I got you back. Lost you for a minute. Good to see you, man. As well as being on the same show as Seth, I wonder if Bayley's injury played a factor on having Becky on SmackDown. Maybe with the loss of Sasha now, you don't have Sasha or Bayley on the show, and Bianca ain't got no challengers really right now. So, I mean, all you really have there, what do you have, Zelina and Carmella? Who are the other women on that show? Fuck, who are the other women on the show? I mean, Natalya and what's-her-face, because they're the champs. Shotzi and Tegan, I guess. Who else? What kind of division do they even have over there? I can't even think of any women on SmackDown. I think I think of like 4. Becky's the champion of a 4-woman roster. Like, that's crazy. I'm sure there's more than that, but you get my drift there. There's not much there. So, yeah, they might have changed some stuff around, and they could still rechange it. Don't forget, that draft is probably still going to happen. So anything they do now could be a temporary fix, and they can move on with more concrete plans later. That's always possible. So, what up, Ungovernable? Good to see you. I know that was a while ago, but I said that. It was high quality H2O and it was a lame commercial for something like that. There he is. What's up? Population 420. I was just talking about you. Got a chance to meet you yesterday. I was going to see if I can pull up your picture. Daniel came by to see me yesterday. It was very awesome. I've lost it. It's so buried in stuff in my Twitter. But came over to my seat and saw me. I talked to a few people via DM, and it was tough to get us. It was tough to meet up because I came into the show so late. We got in Saturday instead of Friday, so any meetups I did was going to have to be at the show. But was able to meet up with Daniel there. Very cool, and appreciate you stopping by, sir, and saying hi to me yesterday. Very awesome to meet you, and thank you for another. Sweet-ass $5 drop there. Good evening, good mic work. Had a blast at SummerSlam. Finally had a chance to meet you. Rumor has it Stadium Payment Service is still down. Lesnar made up for it. Yeah, Lesnar made up for it. Well, I don't know if Allegiant is doing any more events. Are they doing something today? I mean, if this payment is still down, at least there's no events there that they can't sell shit for. But yeah, that was really crappy. But really cool for you to stop by yesterday and chat a little bit with you. And yeah, you're right. I mean, Lesnar did maybe help make up for a little bit of the show. But, at the same time, it felt like WWE was counting on, Becky and Brock, to kind of help make the show when the show should have been made just if you booked it right. You could have, Bianca and Becky could have had a nice little 15-minute match together that was memorable. And it would, until Seth and Edge got out there would be considered match of the night. But squash instead. Head-scratching decisions. But good to see you in here again, Daniel. Thanks for being here, and thanks for last night, man. Oh, yeah, Tony Storm. I forgot about Tony Storm. Naomi. Liv. Okay, thank you. We got a few other ones. Okay, so there's 3. So we got like a 7-woman division. That's not bad. Right on. 7 women. Good job. Yeah, she has slightly more challengers than Alundra Blaze did. Very awesome. Anyway, that leaves us with the final 2 matches of the night. First one is Bobby Lashley defending the WWE title against Bill Goldberg. This fucker, God, I was sitting there in the crowd. I'm like, I can't be here in person if he wins. I can't. I'll take all my clothes off and run square into the ring and just see what happens. I just can't. So I'm already kind of nervous. Lashley comes out first. Goldberg comes out to no pyro. And I started noticing, I'm like, yeah, we got no pyro all night. I guess Allegiant Stadium doesn't allow pyro, which is a good, you don't want to have fire in the desert. It's not a good idea. So I understand that, but it was kind of funny watching Goldberg come out. I was looking at him at the big screen, and I don't know if the camera was off of him or not, but I could see him. And it looked like he was kind of waiting for the pyro. It makes, and I don't know this for sure because I didn't see it on TV. I'm only going by what I saw in the arena. But it made me wonder if WWE ribbed him and made him think his pyro was going to happen because he stood there a little too long. Like he was waiting for it so he could do his kicks and his snorts and breathe in the shit. And it wasn't happening. And plus, the way the configuration was, you couldn't have done any pyro by the entranceway there. It would hit me. I was that close to it. So the fans were way too close to the entrance to really do any pyro anyway. But apparently the arena does not allow that, which is totally fine and totally smart. So Goldberg comes out, no pyro, very sad. They start having their match, and words cannot express how fucking horrible Goldberg is in the ring. I mean, if he looked like shit on TV, he looked even worse in person. I'm in there. I'm looking at the big screen a lot in this one too. And he had that one spot, very dangerous, where he nearly dropped Lashley on his head. This seems to be a repeated thing with Goldberg. And at some point, WWE, they might not be so lucky. And one of these botches could turn into something really, really serious. Goldberg, I cannot say enough positive things about the way he looks. I don't know how this fucker at 54 years old looks so unbelievably amazing from a physical standpoint. But in the ring, he didn't know what he was doing 25 years ago, much less now. So the last thing in the world I wanted to see was a repeat of Saudi Arabia and to see Goldberg go over on Lashley here. So the match also I don't think it's going to go any more than 3 minutes. It goes a little bit longer than that. And a lot of stuff, they spill out on the outside of the ring a couple of times as well. And Lashley basically targets Goldberg's leg from what I could see. Really goes to work hard on the leg. Goldberg's selling it a lot and can't perform any of his moves. I think we got a jackhammer at one point that I think Lashley might have kicked out of, but Goldberg, Lashley is just slowly and methodically taking out one of the legs of Goldberg, and the fans around me seem to be loving it. Everybody around me, anyway, in my section of the arena, was pro Lashley, including myself and a couple of guys that was sitting behind me. I was kind of talking to him like, this bald fucker better not win. The white bald fucker. I was like, I can't have it. Just Lashley all the way here. So I was really, really hoping that Lashley would win, but I wasn't expecting the finish to go the way it did. I was hoping what I had predicted, or not predicted, what I had mentioned in my predictions, the right thing to do is to have Lashley hurt lock this fool into submission, because I can't recall Goldberg ever submitting, unless he did when he was a heel in WCW or something. I don't recall him ever submitting ever. The first person to do that to him should be a pretty big deal. And what a statement win that would be for Lashley if you put Goldberg down with the hurt lock and he has no choice but to either tap or pass out. You don't have to tap, just pass him out like you did Drew. Why couldn't you have done that? Because, Lashley attempted the hurt lock, I believe, but Goldberg was too big and he powered out of it. But why didn't he attack the leg and pick him up before the ref had a chance to even stop the match and just pass him out or whatever? So the ref decides that Goldberg is no longer fit to compete. He calls for the bell. Fans boo immediately, and Lashley wins and retains the title via forfeit or ref stoppage. And I'm like, that's all? That's what they're doing? And then after the match, you see, I guess Lashley's going to continue the assault on Goldberg, and he's attacked from behind, because I'm sitting waiting in my seat. I have no idea who it is. And I'm like, oh, it's Goldberg's kid. He jumps on the back of Lashley and starts grabbing him by the neck. Lashley flips him over and locks him in the hurt lock and just decimates the kid. And then MVP even sees what happened. And then MVP gets on the mic and he's like, whoa. Lashley had no idea of knowing that was Goldberg's kid. He jumped on him from behind. He would never do that. And Goldberg like kind of crawls over to protect his son. So all of this scares the living shit out of me because it feels like they're leaving an unresolved issue here. Goldberg's kid was assaulted, so even though the ref had to stop the match, Goldberg couldn't compete anymore. You would think that Goldberg might want some payback for that. According to the reports, Goldberg doesn't have any more contracted dates on his contract this year. That doesn't mean they can't add one. And we've got that delightful little show coming up in October called Crown Jewel, where we could very well get a goddamn rematch. He might only have 2 contracted dates, but Saudi Arabia is a whole different story. Saudi Arabia probably wants Goldberg. He's probably going to get a huge payday for going there and wrestling a shitty fucking match against Lashley, just like his shitty match against The Undertaker and his shitty match against The Fiend. And this shitty wrestler is going to get paid a shit ton of money, and that bothers the shit out of me. So crazy. Now, if they go to Saudi Arabia and they do the rematch and Lashley beats him, fine, Goldberg, take your money and please get the fuck out of our faces for the final time, please. I didn't even have a problem with Goldberg. I don't really even dislike the guy. There's a lot of things that I find just incredible and fascinating about him. But in terms of him being used to this degree, if you bring him in and use him like AEW uses Sting, then I'd be fine with seeing Goldberg every week. Every week he could be on TV, and I'd be fine with it. But not like this. Not in these title matches that he is constantly thrust into these main event situations that he cannot handle, and they keep doing it. Regardless, taking away spots, taking away good, big pay-per-view money away from somebody. They could probably use it a lot more than Goldberg could, and could use that for their career and their legacy. And instead, somebody's legacy that was over 20 years ago is still taking away spots from other people. I don't appreciate that. Unless Lashley taps him out and submits Goldberg, that would be kind of cool because nobody's done that to Goldberg before. But aside from that, like, why are you doing this? Like, and even though I know there's a casual audience that wants to see Goldberg, I was in the arena. I have his entrance recorded raw from the show. Lots of boos. Bobby Lashley, and when they do the entrances too in the beginning, do the silent entrances in the ring with no music, and they introduce both guys, Lashley got a bigger pop than Goldberg. Goldberg was booed by a good portion of the audience. Why does WWE not hear this? Why do they not hear what we hear? Why do they not notice what we notice? Why are they so hell-bent on putting this guy in the ring when all it does is make fans like me resent him when I really shouldn't? I want to appreciate what Goldberg was. I lived through the Goldberg era. I remember it, saw all of his biggest wins in WCW. It was one of the few times ever that I had Nitro on over Raw when he beat Hogan. And I was flipping back and forth. It was a big moment. I appreciate that WCW was able to create that star because he was different and unique. And even though he looked like Austin, he was a completely different type of worker and wrestler and personality. And he was a huge star, and I will always appreciate that. But the more they bring him back, I was happy with 2016. I was fine with the Brock squash, defended it. And I was happy with Goldberg coming back, having a quick run with the title, dropping it at Mania, and then seemingly retiring the next day and then going into the Hall of Fame. That's all I needed. Everything beyond that loss to Brock at WrestleMania 33, I've wanted nothing to do with. And if that would have been it, I would have had so much more respect for the legacy of Goldberg if that would have been it. But WWE, and it's not all his fault. They're the ones who keep throwing money at him. So what's he going to say? No, I don't want $2 million to go wrestle in Saudi Arabia? Of course he's going to say yeah. I'd say yeah. So can't fault him for that. And now, his son is going to be tied into this. His son might be looking to get into wrestling once he gets old enough. He might already be old enough. But once he gets a little older and fills out a bit, because he's a good-looking kid, and he's corn-fed, and he's probably going to be pretty big and strong because of his dad. He's got it in his fucking DNA. So I feel like he'll be tied into this. They might do a tag match with MVP and Lashley against Goldberg and his kid. I don't know, but to me, this reeks of Saudi Arabia, the way they did the finish here. So we'll see, and we'll see if they do anything tomorrow. I don't think Goldberg's going to be on the show. He's going to be selling the knee. So Lashley and MVP, I'm sure, will be in the arena just talking smack. and hopefully maybe move on to a new opponent for Lashley at Extreme Rules, and then he'll pick where he left off with Goldberg and at Crown Jewel. That's where I see it going. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think they would have gone with a finish like that if this was going to be the end of the issue. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to see him again, aren't we? Whatever. Raw in San Diego, the Mysterios versus the Goldbergs. Yeah. Hell yeah, Sam 3. So that leaves us with our main event, Roman Reigns defending the Universal title against John Cena. Friday night before the show on SmackDown, final segment, just minutes before CM Punk made his return to professional wrestling, Roman Reigns revealed that he's going to up the stakes and up the ante in the match with John Cena at SummerSlam, and he vows to leave WWE if he does not walk out of SummerSlam as champion. And I thought that was going to be a very, very significant line, a very, very significant sentence that he said there. If I don't leave as champion, that means he didn't say if you beat me. He said if I don't leave as champion. So I thought they would try to do something fun here and actually have him lose the belt. I was like, what if he beats Cena, but then Big E cashes in? Oh, well, you said if you don't leave as champion, you're leaving WWE. See ya, and they kick him out of WWE, and they got to do some angle to get him back in there, Or I thought maybe Big E could come out in the middle of the match and make it a triple threat, and then pin Cena. How funny would that be? Because then Big E's in the match. You pin Cena to win the title. Roman Reigns has made the mistake of opening up his mouth and saying, if I don't leave as champion, I'm leaving WWE. And now he has to leave WWE, and he wasn't even pinned. Obviously, Paul Heyman would get him back in somehow or work his magic. That was the finish I was looking for or looking out for. Brock wasn't even on my immediate radar. I'm surprised he wasn't, but I wasn't really thinking him. And aside from Edge and Seth, I think this is the only other match on the card that really delivered, like really, really delivered. And I think they would have had chances for other matches to deliver, especially Becky and Bianca. I think could have been way better than it was. And you could have done more with the women's title on the Raw side as well, with a Nikki retaining or maybe even Rhea Ripley winning or something like that would have been better and would have helped the quality of this pay-per-view if you did something like that, because everybody is anti-Charlotte, of course. But they chose to go the way they go, or they chose to go the way they went. And because of that, like I said, I only feel like two matches had big match feels. Seth and Edge and Roman and Cena were the only two matches on the show. Not even Goldberg and Lashley felt like a big deal, but those two matches did. And we haven't seen John Cena in a while. So Cena hits the ring, huge pop. Nobody was really booing him. There was the dueling, let's go Cena suck chants in my section a couple of times. But when he came out, it was deafening. Deafening. Can't deny it. Can't deny Cena. And then Roman got a hell of a reaction as well when he comes down to the ring. So they get in the ring, they do their introductions, and then they start wrestling. Now, I have not seen John Cena wrestle in a while. I know he's been working live events, but I haven't seen any footage of this really. I didn't realize how much he's slimmed down. You got to remember, Cena's getting old. Cena's my age. A lot of times your muscle mass kind of goes away as you get older or whatever, and he definitely looked a little slimmer, like he had dropped a bit of muscle weight, perhaps, maybe 10, 20 pounds. I don't know. So he definitely looked a little bit different. I never thought John Cena would ever age, but he's starting to age just a little bit. He's got that funny spiky hairdo. He's got the bald spot in the back. I cannot say he's got a dad bod, because I'm sure he still works out religiously and he's still in amazing shape. But it's starting to happen. You can kind of see Cena getting a little bit older, but worked a hell of a match. That's another thing about Cena that I don't know where this idea that he can't wrestle comes from, because the dude, when he is active, has match of the year candidates every year. And then when he takes a year and a half off, he's still in there like he didn't miss any time. I know he's been working some live events and stuff to kind of shake off some of the rust, but him and Roman put on a hell of a match here from what I could tell. A lot of stories told in this thing, and multiple F5s. And I knew at the end, they did the big spot at the end where Cena top rope F5s him or FUs him or attitude adjusts him. I forgot the name of the move. He gives him the AA from the top rope and hit him on that. And when Roman kicked out of that, I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty incredible. And he was able to beat John Cena after that. I know he hit him with multiple Superman punches. I think he hit him with the spear for the win, correct, and pinned him. Cena goes down. Roman stands tall, and it was a pretty decisive win, too, to where, Roman, obviously, he's had the match of his life, but he's up right away. It didn't I wasn't sure if we were going to see Big E, So I was like, okay, I guess that's it. Roman wins. He doesn't have to leave WWE. Puts John Cena down in another main event that I'm very proud to say I was there to see live. I'm happy I saw Roman and Cena, especially this one. When they did it a few years ago, it wasn't as big of a deal as it is now. So for them to be on this stage in this main event in front of this crowd, these two, modern day icons was pretty incredible to witness live. I appreciated the moment anyway. And Roman went over as Roman should. 1 year ago, he showed back up at SummerSlam and won the title and hasn't looked back since. And he's been dominant ever since. So he remains dominant. He stands tall. I'm standing there. I'm looking at Elizabeth. I'm like, should we go? Should we leave? And I guess Big E's not coming out. And then Brock's music hits out of the blue, out of nowhere. Crowd freaks. I think that was pop of the night, even over Becky, even over Cena coming out, even over Gangrel and Edge, which actually Edge's Gangrel theme didn't get much of a reaction from the crowd because you got to remember that was a whole generation ago. There's not a whole lot of audience members that even know what the fuck that is. A lot of people were saying they were disappointed by the reaction. I'm like, yeah, because we're old. That's why. Nobody knows. Like that little kid that I described in the very beginning of the show with this Powerade sitting on the outside of the building, asking the lady when they can get in, who was 4 years old. Do you think he has any fucking idea who the Brood is? Of course not. So I don't think, that was just a special moment for the fans that appreciated that. But, the regular pop, the regular Edge music, got a pretty good pop from the crowd. So, seeing all that was pretty awesome and pretty special, I think. But Brock coming out was huge. Crowd exploded. Oh, shit. And that's all I said. I'm like, oh, shit, because this is what I've been talking about. We've been discussing this for I don't know how many weeks and months now, pretty much for the past year. Maybe not the past year. As soon as Roman appeared with Heyman, as soon as Heyman was with Roman, I think the very first thing I said that night, if you go back and watch whatever fucking episode that was, I guarantee you I said, that makes it interesting when Brock comes back, because this is one of Brock's bitter rivals. These guys have been through hell and back together. And Roman has never really had that good, clean win over Brock. That weird shit that happened at SummerSlam a few years back was odd. I just remember Brock being pinned with a chair on his face, and it seemed kind of quick and out of nowhere. Roman, the character that he is now, the tribal chief, he needs to put down Brock Lesnar, But I've also said that when Brock comes back, he probably should win his first match, because last time he was on TV, he was getting beat by Drew McIntyre in pretty quick fashion in the empty arena WrestleMania. And I think when he comes back, he needs to kind of get back on the winning streak or remind everybody who Brock is before he takes his next L. Because when Brock takes an L, the world needs to recognize and the world needs to notice. So you need to build for that moment, not just bring him back in and have him lose and shit. He ain't Goldberg. He's better than Goldberg. And he looks different too. Brock is still rocking that weird ponytail thing. He's got the beard. He looks like half fucking Mordecai. A lot of people said he slimmed down as well. I couldn't tell. I think he was wearing jeans or something. Some sort of like sleeveless black shirt. He definitely looked different. Crowd's going nuts when he's coming down to the ring. He gets in the ring and he kind of stares down Roman Reigns. And I could not stop looking at Paul Heyman. That's all I was doing, was watching Heyman. And he's fucking shocked and he doesn't know what to think. Roman thinks better of it, decides not to engage. He retreats and he walks away. And I'm watching Heyman because I'm right by the entranceway. And I'm watching Heyman and Roman walking, and Heyman's talking to him, and Roman looks pissed off. I can't believe he fucking showed up or whatever. And he looks like legitimately mad. And I guess that's when the show went off the air. Now, for us in the audience, we were treated to some extracurricular activity because Brock Lesnar got his hands on John Cena and had him eat a couple of Germans and an F5, which was pretty fun to see. Those two guys back in the ring together at SummerSlam. Last time that happened, it was quite the assault that took place on John Cena back in 2014. I'll never forget doing the episode, the podcast that night, because all the way up until that match, I was just bombarded by these bitter fans that hate John Cena so much, calling me stupid for predicting Brock Lesnar to win. That's the reversal we were in. I'm like, fans were anti-John Cena, but they were assuming he would win. I was pro-John Cena, trying to tell everybody he was going to lose. I'm like, can't you see what they're doing? Brock is going to win the title. This is exactly why. Like, if Bryan wouldn't have had to forfeit the title, Bryan would have been losing to Brock. Brock's going to be the fucking champion. Just hang out, guys. But little did I know it was going to be the squash that it was. And I remember bragging a little bit. I'm like, all you fucking morons who thought I was the dumb one, who's eating their words now. But anyway. it was kind of cool to see those two guys interact at a SummerSlam for the first time in 7 years. And it went much the same way as it did in 2014 with Brock just completely annihilating John Cena. So at one point we had Roman, Cena, and Brock all within the same ring, basically, or the same ringside area. So that was cool. And it really now gives us something to think about going forward. I mean, Brock, we're a ways off from like a big pay-per-view. Is Brock going to come and work Extreme Rules? Are we going to get Brock and Roman at Extreme Rules? I hope not. Feels like that should be a bigger stage than that, but it might not be. I mean, we got Brock and Cena at Extreme Rules a decade ago. So, maybe we get the same thing with these two guys. I don't know, but it's been one feud that I've been really waiting for and interested in, and a feud that I think came a little bit early. I think that maybe when WWE found out that CM Punk to AEW is a done deal and he is going to be on that Rampage show, I think that's when the Brock conversation started getting a little bit more serious. I'll bet you anything. Because otherwise, I think they got enough going on here to where they don't really need Brock back yet. They can hold off till Survivor Series or Rumble if they so choose. But with Punk coming back, that was their way to maybe counteract that or counterbalance that. And now, can you believe if Brock stays around and stays on TV and he's on SmackDown this coming Friday? We've got Edge, Brock Lesnar, and Edge, Brock Lesnar, and Rey Mysterio all on SmackDown in 2021. That's kind of cool, isn't it? It's not bad. I think it's pretty neat. But anyway, Brock is back now, and who knows, what direction they're going to go in. I've always been interested in where Heyman stands. It appears that Brock is going to be a babyface, and I thought Heyman might be torn in the middle. I thought Brock would come back and be like, what are you doing? This is my enemy, and you're in bed with him? Now you're representing him. You're my advocate. Fuck him. Maybe Heyman is torn. I've also thrown out the possibility of maybe one day doing a 3-man power trip. Could you imagine doing what Vince, Triple H, and Stone Cold did, but do it with Heyman, Brock, and Roman? Wouldn't be bad. But Heyman looks like he's behind Roman Reigns in this, and I think we've got babyface Brock back. So since I figured that whenever Brock comes back, whoever he works with first, he's got to win, I think Brock might take the belt from Roman Reigns, and then Roman beats him back for it or something. I can't fathom any other way. Maybe you have Brock and Roman do a little bit of stuff this fall, and then you can start teasing Roman and Rock at Survivor Series in Brooklyn or at WrestleMania next year or whatever you do there. And perhaps, Brock Lesnar in the next, 8 or 9 months could hold victories over John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and The Rock, all between now and WrestleMania. It's a very real possibility. So, and one day he's going to have to run into Lashley, which might be at Survivor Series the way it's looking right now. Or it could be Lashley and Brock at Survivor Series. That now is in frame. That now is a possibility with Roman and Brock feuding. Brock takes that title off him, and Lashley holds on to his. We get Brock and Lashley at Survivor Series, and no title will be on the line. They'll both be champions, which makes it easier for them to do finishes like they did with Brock and Bryan and Brock and Bryan and Lashley. Brock and Bryan and Roman and McIntyre last year. They can have a really good match, a dream match we've all been waiting to see, and both of them will be champions. That could be, and one will be a heel, one will be a babyface because Brock would be baby, and I would love to see Lashley win that, but I think Brock probably would, and then Roman might beat Brock after that. So they might trade the titles. I don't know. But the one thing I think that absolutely needs to happen at some point in both of these men's careers is that Roman needs to beat Brock Lesnar definitively and put him down and exorcise that demon. Because I've been saying all along, what's going to happen when Mr. Lesnar comes back and Roman tries to pull that acknowledge me shit with him? Based on their history, Roman, that's not something Roman should want. You should not want to poke that bear because Brock has owned Roman Reigns. Most of their matches is Brock dominant. So he's the only guy really that's thrown around Roman Reigns, arguably Braun Strowman as well. But I think Roman finally got the better of Strowman at the end there. But there was a time there where Strowman was pretty dominant on Roman as well and held pay-per-view victories over him. So, this is something that, I don't know if you're bringing Brock in just for Roman to beat him or if you play around with this a little bit. Maybe you have Heyman turn or something. If you wanted to make Roman a babyface again, you could do it this way. Although I really like Heyman with Roman. I'm not sure if I would want to change that, but if Heyman went back to Brock, leaving Roman on his own, Brock is the champion. Roman can fight back as a babyface and beat Brock for the title or whatever. But I don't know. I think there's lots of different ways you could go with it. I think it looks like Brock's going to be the babyface, but you could really do it either way here. You could turn Roman and Brock could be a heel. You could turn Paul. You could keep everything the way it was. You could team these guys up in the future. You got like 6 different pathways you could choose. So let's have at least fun with this one. And Brock coming back, I think, did help save the show a little bit. And is he going to wrestle with that ponytail thing in? Is it going to come out? Is he going to let his hair down like this? Is he going to do a shampoo commercial? Or maybe when he's tired at the end of the day, he pulls out his ponytail and he goes, oh. Maybe he does that. I don't know. But Brock is hilarious. Never a dull moment with him, and he's back now. So welcome back, Brock Lesnar, and we'll see where it goes from here. I don't know how I would grade this SummerSlam. Off the top of my head, I'm going to give it a 6.5. Would you guys agree? C+, something like that. There were some, the moment of Becky returning was great, but the aftermath was not. The moment of Brock returning was definitely great. Seth Rollins and Edge literally burned it down. It was so awesome. But other than that, nothing really sticks out. Well, RK Bro kind of opening the show as well, but nothing other than those moments really, really stick out. This Charlotte title win is going to go largely forgotten and just kind of lost in the shuffle of all of her other title wins. She'll hold that belt 2 more times before the year's even over. So, yeah, I'm going to go C+. Yeah, we've heard the Braun rumors as well. I mean, he could come back and he could do some acknowledging to Roman Reigns. Braun, if he is coming back to WWE, I think the longer he stays gone, the better, because they were really kind of losing direction with him. And they fucked that guy over, too. I'm no Braun Strowman fan after he said some insensitive comments during the pandemic, telling people to get a better job and shit. Fuck you, Braun, and your Kia that you drove to Florida in. But at the same time, he still has a lot to offer. He looks like a big star, and he seems like WWE material, does he not? He'd be fun in AEW, but he's one of those guys where I think actually might be better off in WWE. But, last time he was there, they weren't doing shit with him. He was doing the Raw Underground shit, and he was getting beat by Lashley and everybody on TV. So, I don't know what you even do with him if you do bring him back. So the longer he stays gone, the better. And he can maybe change his look up, maybe come back in even better shape than he was. They let him go when he was in the best shape of his life, which blows my mind, but we'll see. You saw SummerSlam in theaters and the crowd popped for Brock. I've heard a couple people say they saw it in the theater. That's got to be really fun. I'd be into going to that. They used to do closed circuit back when I was a kid, but bringing that back is probably pretty fun. Oh, shit. Thank you for that, Z-Man 3185. Yeah, if they're going to do Brock and Roman, it's going to be Crown Jewel, isn't it? Oh, no. It is, isn't it? It is, isn't it? Here I'm thinking Extreme Rules. That's not where Brock's money is. It's going to be Lashley, Goldberg, Brock, Roman at Crown Jewel, which sucks because I'm very, very interested in a Roman and Brock confrontation, but I'm not going to be interested in it at Crown Jewel because I just fucking hate those shows. Those bloody, dirty fucking shows. They make me sick to my stomach, and I don't even want to watch them. Oh, God, you're right. We're probably going to get that. Yikes. Or we could get Lesnar, Lashley, but at Saudi Arabia. But I feel like they could be doing Goldberg again based on what they left hanging here. They left a cliffhanger for us, which is weird because Goldberg apparently had no dates left this year, but might be signing on to do a couple more. I don't know. But all in all, regardless of the problems that we had at SummerSlam, regardless of the head-scratching booking, the payment system going down, and a couple of other, not so wonderful moments on the show, I had a great time. It was cool to go, and it was cool to meet some of the fans and meet some listeners and look around and be in that arena and go to Vegas and stay in a casino and play some slot machines and do all that kind of stuff, have a little bit of tequila. I was a little bit sick today. Actually, almost yacked in the car on the way home. I got a little car sick. But I was ready to get back here and start talking about this stuff. Overall, it was a really fun experience. They did announce, I think this made television as well, but they announced for us in the audience that Money in the Bank is going to be in Vegas next July. However, I think that overlaps with my Hawaii trip. I don't think I would go to Vegas for Money in the Bank anyway. I would like to go to Vegas for Double or Nothing. So I think when Double or Nothing is there in May, which I'm assuming it will be, right? I'm going to Double or Nothing. I'll go to StarCast and do all that fun shit. And or if they're having a convention or whatnot. But yeah, look for me at Double or Nothing in May. That is definitely happening now that I've made my first drive to Vegas. I've never driven there from here before. So it was an easy trip, and would definitely do it again. But next time I want to do it for AEW. And it looks like for the first time ever, my Hawaii trip will have a pay-per-view going on while I'm there. So I will not be home for Money in the Bank, which is weird, next year. But that's a whole year away. We got a whole lot of time to think about that. Overall, my SummerSlam experience was fun. I think the show could have been better, but don't regret for a minute going. It was definitely cool. And we'll go to the next big event that they have there. Yeah, JCS, it was about 5 hour drive, 4.5, 5 hour, depending on how many times you stop. But it wasn't bad. Yes, story of John, you're right about that as well. The king and queen of the ring will be in Saudi Arabia. The finals will be held there, so they'll be running all the TV matches up until that point. I guess they'll do the 2 finals is what I guess they're doing there. Man, I'm looking. I have the YouTube channel or YouTube page actually pulled up, and I'm super pixely, but that's probably just for me. It'll clear up as the video gets processed. I know, Jose. Yeah, I did. I actually did have a bag in there. King Corbin 2.0. I think we all want Xavier, but it seems like the story they're telling with Baron Corbin is for him to eventually reclaim the crown, win the King of the Ring, and that should give him the amount of money that he needs, apparently, to get his life back on track. Does this guy not have Cameron Grimes' number? Do you want to maybe text him? You know, this guy that's just making it rain with hundreds without even thinking twice after all of his GameStop money. You don't want to hit him up and just say, hey, you know, I thought it would have been a nice touch for Corbin to show up tonight at TakeOver and help Grimes win, you know, and then Grimes pays him to, you know, for his trouble or whatever. But, you know, maybe he should think about calling Cameron Grimes. I don't know. Could solve a lot of problems. But anyway, I am exhausted. I have got to get some sleep now. It's been a very long weekend for me, and I've had very little sleep, and I'm going to be at Raw tomorrow night. So in case you didn't hear that earlier, the plan for tomorrow is to still come up here and do a Raw review. I'm just going to be coming up about an hour later than normal. Should take me about an hour to get home, as long as I don't get hung up in too much traffic getting out of the arena. It's a quick drive back. I'll have the link and everything all set up. All I got to do is come here, sit down, and hit stream on the YouTube, and I should be up here to talk about Monday Night Raw. But it will be a lot of the same type of stuff that I talked about tonight, because I'm going to be just doing all this by memory and what I saw, and probably very minimal notes written. But we'll come up here and do a live stream tomorrow. If for any reason I get hung up in traffic, or if I'm just dead dog tired, or if the show is the worst Monday Night Raw in history. If it's the worst show ever, I'm not going to bother. I'm going to come home and just get some rest. But at least for right now, let's plan on being up here tomorrow night. And then after that, it will likely be Thursday until you get me again. I'll be up here in the afternoon, and we'll talk about whatever transpires on AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. So that's the plan for the rest of the week. Thank you very much to everyone for being here this evening, chatting, and engaging, and all that kind of good stuff. It was fun to talk some SummerSlam. Oh, I missed a super chat earlier. Let me knock that out. JCS 186. Thank you for the $2. It will be interesting. Brock isn't a talker. I know he's gone without Heyman before, but you know, the promos aren't going to be that much out of him. You know what I mean? With him not talking, you know, he could maybe he gets MVP as his mouth. I don't know. Who knows? There's a lot of stuff that they could do, but I'm interested in it. It's intriguing to me because I've been saying all along for the past year, since Roman has become this guy, I'm like, I want to see what happens when Brock comes back. Now he's back, so I get to see that. So I am out of here. You guys could tap that thumbs up button for me on the way out of here. I would really appreciate it. And you guys have a good rest of your night, and I will catch you tomorrow night late for a Raw review.